All right. Hey, Mike.
Mhm.
I'm here with Mike Sandford on the Red Belt podcast. So, Mike, I've known you quite a while. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Man, so I'm a jiu-jitsu guy at heart these days, I guess, but I'm a mixed martial artist. I guess early on I knew I wanted to be a martial artist my whole life. And I kind of followed that path. And I eventually got sucked into living at a gym, teaching, and then eventually teaching full time and then owning a gym. So now I'm a gym owner. I compete professionally in mixed martial arts, helps keep me in shape, keep me focused on myself and development. I coach a few guys that have had a lot of success in mixed martial arts. And, just like anything, I've had a lot of ups and downs throughout my career life. But I do have a really successful large martial arts gym in Mississippi. I actually have two locations. So I have twice as many headaches and twice as much fun. And it's what I love to do. So that's why I'm here.
All right. I was super, super excited for this one because I wanted to see Mike's really good at a whole bunch of different areas, but I wanted to see if we could talk specifically about kids because Mike is so once again, you're in what programs you teach? You teach tell the viewers that.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of programs at my gym. The ones I teach directly, I mean, I can teach all the classes at my gym directly, but I feel like the ones where I get the most out of it myself, that I like doing the most. I love working with kids, like serious kids, of course. You get a mixed bag with kids, right? Because you have the ones where their parents want them to be there, and you have the ones where they want to be there. And I don't mind working with both groups, but I really love working with the kids that want to be there. So I personally try to make sure that I personally teach all those classes, and that's where I get a lot of my stars from. It's they develop in that class, and then they grow up into adults. A lot of people that want to train fighters and fight teams, they think, oh, I'm going to have this talented athlete come into my gym one day. It's like, no, you make your own talented athletes. They're starting your kids class, and a lot of these guys, like a lot of coaches that love to train athletes and fighters, they don't teach kids. So I've never really got that. That's where a lot of my stars come from, is my kids program. So I love working with kids for that reason, but it can be trying, and but I put a lot of time into it. There's definitely a huge market there, and obviously that can keep your gym afloat. Just having a good kids program is really all you need. If you have a good kids program and a good kids instructor that wants to be there, wants to work with the kids, that can fund everything else you want to do that doesn't make any money.
So in terms of programs, like what exactly do you teach the kids?
So I teach mixed martial arts. I teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu, a gi and no gi, and I teach the kids striking. So I don't really have so I'll call it Muay Thai. Sometimes we'll do boxing, but like in reality, I'm teaching them MMA striking. It's just MMA striking doesn't sell well on paper, so we'll call it Muay Thai or, something along those lines. But in reality, it's MMA striking, So I teach MMA striking and jiu-jitsu for kids and wrestling. So I have a mix. I guess what I want to teach kids and what I teach kids is mixed martial arts, but I teach it in a grappling-based program and a striking-based program. So the grappling-based one, I call it jiu-jitsu because that's what sells, and it's a jiu-jitsu-based ranking system. And the striking one, I'll call it Muay Thai, on the days that we do all striking, and boxing on the days that we do hands only, because that's what sells. But it's a mixed martial arts striking system. So,
right. So I wanted to let everybody know that. So you teach kids modern martial arts, right? And yet you have a very, very successful kids program. So I've seen a number of different types of places that have quote unquote successful kids programs. And but some of them, they can be successful in different ways. And like there's nothing wrong with like making your money on after school pickup. People need daycare. And like you guys have done summer camps and things like that too. But you're not just a Taekwondo gym that has 1,000 members, right? So you're doing what a lot of my viewers and my friends do. You're doing the same stuff we're doing, and yet competitive with those guys and competitive with the Taekwondo schools, competitive. So basically, Mike Sandford is getting his sales and his retention in this business pretty much from excellence rather than like any sort of particular trick. So that's why I really wanted to talk about that. If possible, I'd like to start with talking about your on board, your sales process, and then your onboarding process. I'll
Mhm.
pre-frame this to I knew Mike for a while before I saw him kind of give a demo of this kid's demo that he does. Maybe it's changed. I think you told me it's gotten even better since then. But I told my staff members after we left there, and we both kind of exchanged similar sentiments that, like, man, listening to that made me want to like reconsider for the first time being single, and maybe I should settle down, start a family, have some kids so I can move to Biloxi, enroll my kids in this program because the pitch was that good. So and that's a joke, but like barely, because I can see how people that could barely afford it make room for it, because you gave a lot of value in that. What is your close percentage on that, like overall? Not a good month or a bad month, but overall.
So the close percentage is really high when I do that intro lesson. I have recently taken some of the pressure off the first day enrollments, just because I have a staff that I was training up. But when I'm doing it myself, and we're doing it in class a lot of times now too, because my schedule got kind of stuffed up with my training for my fights and stuff. For some stupid reason, I started fighting again, so it kind of screwed my schedule up. So in the class, it's not as good as it is with like a private intro lesson. But it's even with the parent. So the biggest thing with kids is, they have to talk to the other parent. You can't always get both parents there. As much as hard as you try, it's not always going to happen. And they're always going to want to talk about it after. But what I found is, even on a 2 day, if I give it 2 days, the close rate is super high. It's just that first day, it can be really hard to pin everyone down on that first day. But overall, on the 2 day one, it's well over 80%, as far as closing goes. Now, do they all stick for every month? A lot of them that sign up, it really isn't in their budget. And some of them do fall through, and you have to deal with that like anything else. But to me, I'd rather have that and deal with people falling out, because the next month, and not have them sign up at all. So but the close rate is extremely high. And I think it's just that creating that overall experience where I'm finding out exactly what they're looking for, and I am making sure that they see exactly what they're looking for as a benefit of what they're signing up for. So the whole process, from the appointment being set to them walking in the door, the interview sheet is huge. Always doing that interview before the intro class, and then the intro class really just nails the coffin shut on that one. It's that the 2-step white belt test that I do is probably the best thing that I've done as far as sales go. Like, as far as like, I stole a lot of the stuff that I do. I stole it from people here and there. I got a lot of stuff from a lot of good salespeople in the martial arts industry. But I think, like, making that white belt test, the 2-step one, I think that's huge. The way I do that. And that really, it gives every parent, because most parents are bringing their kids there because they're like totally undisciplined, and they need discipline and they need focus and all this. And then the other half are like, my kid's disciplined, but he's got no confidence. He's a wimp. I need to toughen him up. So it really speaks to both of those groups. And that's like 90% of the parents bringing their kids in, and 90% of the kids too.
Yeah. So many people, so myself still included, and so many people I talk to, they have like a worse close rate for kids. And I know you told me before, when you were doing the privates all yourself, now you're busy, you're putting them in class, and you're still way over 80%, which is super excellent. But like you told me, you were like at 90% at one point.
I was, yeah. I mean, there's been months where I had 100% close on kids, like back in the day, and
100% of not like 2, but like 30.
Yeah, no, 100% of like a lot of, we had months where we had over 100 signups, back when we had like no competitors. It was great. And we were spending, Alan would, me and Alan were partners, and he'd spend like 50 grand a month on advertising, like it was nothing, so I mean, we just had, unlimited. It was like a money machine. You just every dollar you put in, we get 10 back. So it was a no-brainer back then. But even now, man, like, in all honesty, talking about the Taekwondo schools, my biggest competitor right now is one of the coaches that I trained that runs basically my program, at another gym. And, her program's huge, and she does a great job with it. And it's just, it's functional. So like, even my biggest competitors over here are a place doing pretty much exactly what I'm doing, it's, and, her kids are all tough, and they're all good. They're all competing a lot. And, it's just a solid format, But as far as my intro lesson goes, I don't spend a lot of time on it. I just make sure that I hit all the most important points, you know, and the longer you spend, the worse it's going to work out anyway. Some people think like putting that extra time in, man, you got a 5-year-old and you want to spend an hour with a 5-year-old, good luck. You're just going to look like an idiot. All right. Nobody can keep a 5-year-old's attention for an hour, you know, unless they're like a super focused 5-year-old, you know, make that lesson quick, get their attention, make them respond, show the parents you're going to get the responses that they want to see. And then that's it. Then let them fly and tell them come back Monday, you know? All right, let's get them signed up. Let's get them McGee, and then I'll see you in class Monday.
All right. So do you think that you could go ahead and do this demo for us right now?
Yeah, let me see. I might even have a kid here I can do it with. All right. Let me try to pull somebody over here. All right. See if Ethan's still here.
Guys, this one's going to be worth the wait. I've seen all sorts of demos. I do all sorts of training. I network with all sorts of people, go to all sorts of different schools. And this is by far, not even the close, best kids demo and intro and process that I have ever seen anyone ever do. So super excited that you guys are going to get to see this right here.
All right, so it works out. I got my friend Trevin here. Okay. Trevin actually signed up with me a few years ago. He did this intro lesson. I can't remember. How old were you when you started? 12. 12? How old are you now? 14. All right, so he's been with me a couple years now. He's a yellow belt, really good competitor, and he started off with this intro lesson. All right, so he happens to be here rolling today at our open mat, so he's going to go through it again. All right, so I'm going to try to get some good lighting over here. I don't know if you can see good. Is this okay?
Yep, it's fine.
All right, cool. All right, so we're here. So the first thing I always do, obviously we have our interview sheet, okay? I always want to go over the interview sheet when they do the waiver and kind of make sure that I know the exact reasons that this parent's bringing their kid in, the exact reasons the kid wants to train too. Some kids want to train, some kids don't want to admit it, you know, especially with teenagers. The one thing I found is most of them really want to do it, but they don't want to act like they want to do it, you know? So if you can kind of get to the core of that, then you can give them the correct lesson and give them the correct vibe, right? I don't want to be too overbearing to a kid that's really shy. And I don't want to be too, you know, delicate with a kid that's, you know, outgoing, right? So I want to give them just the right amount of enthusiasm. I kind of want to match their enthusiasm. With kids, you don't always know their level of enthusiasm because they try to hide it. So that's a key. So after I've done my interview, I find out why they're here, why the parent's here. I build that into the lesson. But as far as the lesson goes, it's pretty consistent, pretty simple. I want to make sure that they learn the most basic strikes and the most basic grappling, because I'm teaching them all that. And even if you only teach grappling, teach them how to throw a jab and a cross and a front kick. All right. Anyone should learn that. Even if you're just a pure jiu-jitsu competitor, McGee, and all you do is IBJJF, teach them a jab, teach them a cross, teach them a front kick, teach them a fighting stance. All right. It's super easy and it pays dividends. And you can tell them, hey, that's all the strike you need. You just have to get it to the ground after that. Right. And it's not a lie, you know? So in that, at least they've gotten some semblance of what they can do on their feet and how they should keep their hands and how to set up a takedown. Right. So I'm always going to start this off by showing fighting stance and then working the jab and the cross and giving them some proper correction. And then I'll go into the front kicks and then I'll go into some grappling, show them how to hold mount if it's a kid. And then once we've done that, then I'm going to have them test for their white belt. Okay. So I teach the jab and the cross. You want me to go through all that, how I teach it, or
go through what you would do? Not necessarily tell us how to do it. I just like to see the full demo.
The lesson. All right, cool. All right, so all right, Trevor. Ever trained any martial arts before? All right, yes, you have. But today is gonna be your first mixed martial arts class, right? So we're gonna go over first your fighting stance. I'm gonna go over your jab, your cross, your front kick. Okay. Now these are really important. Even though I want you to get the fight to the ground, you do it safely, protect yourself. And then if you're defending yourself, you're punching somebody in the face, and the teacher comes in, who looks like a bad guy? Yeah, you, right? If you're punching in the face, even though they started it, they were the one trying to hurt you, you're defending yourself. The teacher comes in, you're bloody a kid's nose, you're automatically bad, right? So if we can avoid that and still win the fight, we want to do that, right? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna learn basic strikes to be able to control distance in case we need it. But when it does come to defending yourself, I'd rather you take them down and hold them down. This way, you can win the fight. You can hit them, they can't hit you, right? But if a teacher comes in and you're just holding them down and they're the ones going crazy, who looks like the bad guy now? They do, right? All you're doing is defend yourself. You're holding them down. You're stopping them from hurting you. You're not hurting them. But who wants to fight? That's right. So I'm talking about. So that's what we're gonna practice, right? Now, first things first. I'm Coach Mike. Gonna be fast catching. Oh, come on. All right. Good. All right. So now, we're gonna start with our fighting stance, right? So I don't be sitting on my shoulders apart. Okay. I'm get a little closer so they can hear me on camera here. I don't know if you're loud enough. Shoulder width apart, and now we take your left foot, step it forward, just like me. Hands up, elbows in tight. Okay. Now this is your lead hand. This is your rear hand. Your lead hand is going to be your number one punch or your jab. Okay. Your number one punch. Your cross or your rear hand is going to be your number two punch. Okay. So your number one punch is going to come straight out here. Your shoulder's going to come up, protect your chin. Your chin's going to stay down, and it's going to come straight back. Now the key here is I want it to be fast. I don't want it to be powerful. Okay. I want speed, not power. And speed comes from the retraction. So don't just bring it out fast. I want it to come back fast too. Does that make sense? All right. So let me see your jab. Go. Excellent. But you see how you're sitting right there, and I can hit you back. So what I want you to do is take a little step back. And now, can I hit you? You can't hit me either, right? But now we're going to control distance. So what I want you to do is take a little step forward with your front foot, hit me, and then bring it back and step back. Now I can't hit you back, right? This is what we call distance control. Say distance control. You can hit me, I can't hit you. Ready? Go. Ha. Oh, you got it. Go. Ha. Good. Go. Ha. Excellent job. Great distance control. Now we're going to do the same thing with the cross, okay? You're going to step in, throw the cross, only your front foot steps, your back foot is where you really are. Your front foot is just going to allow you to hit me, and then you get back out of range, okay? Ready? Step in, cross, and when you throw your cross, you're going to twist your shoulders. You can even twist your foot on the ground. I want you to point your knee, your hip, your shoulder at me while you throw the punch. Excellent. And then come right back. Good. Ready? Go. You're out of range again. Go. Out of range again. Go. Out of range again. Excellent job. So now you're hitting and not getting hit. Shoot, I lost my connection.
I still hear you, Mike.
Oh, you can? All right. So that's what distance control is all about. I don't know where this, can you see me?
Yep, I still got you.
I don't know what happened here. My Zoom disappeared. Oh, there we go. All right. So now we have your basic punch. Okay. Now there's lots more punches where that came from that we'll learn. But we're going to learn our front kick next. Okay. So the kick we can do from a little bit further away. What I want you to do is bring your knee up and stomp your foot out. Okay. Kind of like you're stomping on a bug. Ever stomped on a bug before? All right. So I want you to pretend this is giant venomous spider trying to get your mom. You got to save it. All right. It's climbing up me. I'm the wall. It's climbing up. I want you to bring your foot up, and I want you to stomp right here on my belly, okay? I normally wear a belly pad. I want you to give me your best plug stomp right here. Ready? Bring your foot up and stomp. Go. Excellent. Now you can push me back a little bit. Ready? Go. Good. Now you see how that made me come back? Now, even when I'm coming forward, you can do that to keep me back. Ready? Go. Excellent. Go. Good. All right. Excellent job with that, okay? That's your front kick or seat, okay? It's going to be used to control distance also. So now we have your basic straight punches and your basic front kick. These are going to help you control distance, okay? Now, when somebody gets too close, we're going to use our clinch, okay? Now, I want you to think about getting underhooks and getting your head in the box, and then we can trip me to the ground. We can also grab the legs, right? Now, normally here, I'll pick either a single leg or a double leg or a body lock trip, depending on the size of the kid and their confidence level and what I think is going to be easiest for them to learn. Most of the time, I do a single leg because anybody can do a single leg. But sometimes I'll just show the body lock. It's a little bit more applicable for a fight, depending on like what level of athleticism I feel from the kid and what their level of enthusiasm is. All right. So single legs are really simple. Okay. So now from here, what I want you to do is step right outside of my front foot, and you're going to bend your knees and grab my leg and pick it up. Okay. And I'll hold my leg up in the air. Good. Okay. Now we're going to do that again. Ready? I'm going to come in at you. I want you to get down and grab my leg. Go. Excellent. Okay. Now I'm going to throw a punch at you. I want you to come under it and grab my leg. Ready? Go. Excellent. See that one more time? Go. Good. Now, once you have my leg in the air, I want you to spin me in a circle around you. All right, you don't run around me. You're going to make me jump around you in a circle, and you're going to trip my other foot. Okay, ready? Go. Excellent. Now trip my other foot. Well, excellent job. Now, you got me on the ground. You got to keep me here. I want you to go to mount position. You're going to put one knee in each one of my armpits and push my wrists or shoulders to the ground. Excellent. Now, when I'm trying to get up here, it's going to hold me down and say, stop trying to fight me. I'll let you have to stop. All right, fine. Good. Get off. Okay. So now I don't actually demonstrate mount. I will walk them through the mount most of the time. Sometimes I might need to grab a dummy or another person to have them help them get into mount. But most of the time, if I tell them to put one knee in one armpit, one knee in the other armpit, push my shoulders down, they usually get that and they can do it directly on me and get a feel for it. And then I'll give them a little bump. I'll have them control the wrists, push my shoulders down, stabilize mount, and then say, hey, stop trying to fight me. I'll let you up once you stop, you know? So, and this kind of like tells the parent, like, all right, you know, the dads want the kids to punch the other kid in the face, right? So they want them to win the fight. The moms want them to like solve it with words, right? So this kind of gives them the best of both worlds. We're winning the fight. We're stopping the person from hurting us physically, but we're also not bloodying them up, right? So this kind of wins everybody over from what I found, is that takedowns, mount position, control. And then I tell them about like, all right, well, sometimes if they get on top, we have to learn what to do. If they get on top of us, we have to learn what to do. If we can't hold them down, we have to, maybe we have to throw punches there, you know, things like that. And I get into what we're going to learn in the classes. So they start seeing the real value of training consistently and learning all this stuff in the classes. And then I asked them if they had fun. All right. So Trevin, did you have fun today? Is this something you want to keep doing? All right, excellent. Now I need you to lock it up. Crisscross applesauce. Yes, sir. Excellent. Another thing I do in the beginning, right after I have them fill out the interview sheet, I show them our listening positions. Listening position number 1 is attention. They put their hands and feet together, say, yes, sir, nice and loud. Then I show them listening position number 2, lock it up. I say, lock it up. They crisscross applesauce, hands on their knees. Yes, sir. Okay. So they've already learned this in the beginning. I just forgot to mention that. Once I have them here, I go grab the white belt and I grab a board and I come back. All right. So now. All right, Trevor. So I need you to stay there until I say get up, okay? Now, today you did really good with your moves. All right, we learned how to throw your basic punches. We learned your front kick. We learned your single leg takedown into mount position. We learned how to stabilize control. You did an amazing job with all of that, okay? What was your favorite part so far? Takedowns, right? I can tell, man. You did really good at takedown. All right, now, to earn your white belt, we have a 2-part test, okay? And your white belt is going to make you an official martial artist, okay? Once you're officially a martial artist, that's where I can show you the dangerous stuff, like how to kick people in the head and how to control holds. I can't teach you that until you're an official martial artist. Okay. So, are you ready to be a martial artist? All right. Step 1 of your white belt test is going to be the confidence part of your test. Okay. So to test your confidence, I need to see how well you can do your front kick. Right here, I have a solid piece of wood. Okay. Now this is a beginner board. You can definitely break it, but you're going to have to focus. You're going to have to do your technique correctly. If you don't kick this board correctly, it will not break. This is not fake. This is real wood. Okay. I know you can break it. I need you to know you can break it. I feel like you can break it. Yes. All right, great. I want you to try your best. So come on, stand up. Let me see how you remember your fighting sense. Your fighting sense, excellent. Now we'll still practice here. Front kick on my hand. Go. Not bad. I want a little bit more push to you though. Okay, give me a kick. Go for real. Excellent. Now you can kick it like that. Go right back to your fighting sense. I think you break right through this board. Okay. You believe in yourself. All right, on the count of 3, I'm going to kick right through the middle of this board. You ready? 1, 2, don't forget. Right in the middle, hard as you can. Solid wood. You ready? Go! I'm going to set my face off. All right? Excellent. Congratulations, man. You passed the confidence part of your test. You can keep that. Okay? Now, the next part of your white belt test is the hard part. Okay? You got to have a little bit of patience here. Right now, on a scale of F- to A+, how clean is your room? F-. All right. Now, this isn't on my scale. This is on Mom's scale. Mom, we got to get this thing to an A+. You think you can do it? Yeah. If you focus, I think you can do it too, okay? We got to get this up to an A+ on Mom's scale, not your scale. You can handle it? Yes. All right. When you get home, Mom's going to ask you to clean your room. Your answer is going to be? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am is the correct answer. You're going to make that room A+ clean. And then, only then, you'll be officially ranked as a white belt in martial arts. You'll be able to move up towards the next rank. Okay? When you start getting stripes, you can move up towards your eventually low yellow belt. Where once you're low yellow belt, you're pretty tough. All right? Now, is this something you want to keep doing? Yes, sir. All right, let's get you set up. Okay, I'm going to get you size up for a gi while I show Mom the different options we got. All right? Awesome job today, man. There you go. Psych. Gotta earn it. Here you go, Mom. Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. I'll do every belt card. You won't get another strike to that room's clean. All right? Thanks a lot, Trevor. I appreciate your help, man. All right. Are you still here?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Excellent.
So after that, I do my enrollment process. I go into the sales process after that. And they're usually very receptive once I've kind of covered all those points. You know, I'm not sure how well that filmed because I went in and out a couple of times. I got phone calls.
Yeah, it was good enough. I think we got the general idea there.
Great.
Excellent demo, Mike. So you said before, so that's what you do when you have a chance to do a private intro, which I like doing at my gym.
Yeah.
too. But if you don't, or in certain age groups, do you prefer to do a class?
Oh no, I do that even if they do the class. So like I will grab them on the side at the end of the class and do that anyway. I am always looking to do that. The only time I don't is if I don't have any staff there, and I try to avoid that at all costs. So even if I have them go in the class first, at some point in the class, I'm going to pull them on the side and do that with them. Just a brief version, just like that. Okay. Like that only took, it only took 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes with me taking breaks to kind of explain what I was doing. That's a 10-minute process, really, if you go through it. It's not long. So I make sure that I always do that, even if it's at the end of a class. I don't try to sign somebody up unless I do at least some semblance of that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize you were doing that. So if you're doing it in class, you have to pick a side of the mat that's close to the parents then, right?
I will pull the parents over to the mat too. But yes, I will make sure that I'm right next to the parents when I do that, especially the last part.
Okay. Yeah. So you just showed
the other parents all love it. They can't wait. They all wait for me to do the 1, 2, 3 thing, and they're all like filming and laughing. Like the other parents that have gone through it, they all love to see it too. They're all telling the other person about how great of an investment it was. So it really works out, even doing it at the end of class sometimes. The only problem doing it at the end of class is sometimes the kid didn't do well in the class, like they were distracted, whatever else. That makes it a little bit harder to sign them up at the end, as opposed to if I just had their attention the whole time, did that brief intro, and then they come to the next class with that intro already under their belt.
So for very young kids, let's say, because that's like a preteen you show the demo on. How about if we're talking about 5 or 6?
Yeah, that can change things for sure. Sometimes the 5 and 6-year-old won't leave mom's side, right? Like the younger they are, the harder it is to even get them to like stop hiding behind mom's leg, right? That's the biggest challenge. And once we do that, so I will involve the parents sometimes. But if I have a kid that, like, let's say I'm doing a private intro lesson and they're 5 years old, I will tell them to come to the class to try to open them up in the class, or let them watch a class and then open them up that way. Because sometimes it does work better like that with the younger kids. Yeah.
So you'll tell them to do come to class before you ever met them, right? Or you're saying you brought them in for a private and it's not working out so well, you'll have them come back for a class?
Yeah, so with the younger kids, like 4 and 5-year-olds, I do actually like them to come to the class better. So I will tell them to come to a class, because I've had so many that they just will hide behind mom's leg, and I'll get mom to do it sometimes. I had one of my favorite ones was I had a 4-year-old, and we just couldn't get this kid on the mat. So the mom did the intro lesson, and the mom loved it. The mom signed up, and then the kid signed up like the next day. And they did the class, and the kid signed up. And then they had them both. So sometimes that works out, but most of the time it's that 4-year-old, like it's a 50-50 toss up. And when you have limited time, those 50-50 ones, I'd rather have them come to the class. And when they see the other kids, sometimes they'll get out there, and sometimes I can do the intro lesson on the side by the mat during the class. I have an assistant instructor, so I can do their intro lesson on the side. And if they don't want to do it, they can at least watch the class, and then I can have them come back next time. And so those ones will take more than one lesson a lot of times. They're really shy, which is common the younger they are, But as soon as they hit like 7 years old, I want that every time. 7, 8 years old, age of reason, they call it, once they can they stop being glued to mom.
Right. So 7, 8 is the age group where you do the demo.
Right. Where I'd much rather
just showed us. Yep. And for the 4 or 5-year-old, you would still try and do a very similar or really the exact same demo, just in the class, you're saying?
Exact same thing, but I'm going to have them come to the class so they can at least, if I can't get them on the mat, they can at least watch the class. And a lot of times when they see the kids doing the games and running around, that's how I usually get them. Is if they're hiding behind mom's leg and they don't want to do anything, they'll cry and whatever else. Once they see the kids play the game at the end, they want to jump in the game. And then once I have them jump in the game, now next time they're more willing to try everything else out. So that's so
what would be your process there? So they came in, they were too scared to do the class.
Yep.
Did the game at the end. What do we do now? We reschedule for next time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So on those ones, absolutely. So if I have a kid that I cannot get on the mat, they're too shy, they're too scared, they're too whatever, it's really common with 4-year-olds, sometimes even 5-year-olds. I will ask them to watch the class, and sometimes they're resistant to that, but they'll usually like peek out and watch a little bit of it. And if I see any interest at all, I'll go over and talk to them, be like, hey, why don't you come in and join the rest? Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll go back in their shell. But almost always, and I'll keep reminding them, hey, we're at the end, we're going to play a game, and I would really love it if you jumped in the game for just a little while today. And they'll keep that in the back of their mind. And then a lot of times they'll jump into the game at the end. And even if they watch the game, they'll be like, all right, next time I want to play. And I'll tell the parents that. I'll say, hey, a lot of times we can't get them on the mat in their first class. That's okay. That's normal. But I do want them to come back on Wednesday for the next class. And I think now that they've been exposed to it, it'll be a little bit easier for them to come out there because it's not all new. They'll kind of know what to expect, and a lot of times it's that unknown that gets them scared, it makes them not want to come out. And with them having that encouragement the whole time from me, they're seeing how nice everybody is. Mom's encouraging them. The next time they come, it's a little easier to get them out there, And then I will do that intro lesson at some point during the class. I will pull them aside, do the basic punches, basic kick, unless we're doing that in the class, and have them do the board break and the homework. That homework close with the clean room. Always do the board break. Always do the homework close. Never try to close anyone without that.
Awesome. So I think we talked about this a long time ago before I started a program. So I have a very, very young program at my gym that is I think we're calling it Dragon Buddies now. It's basically like the mommy and me or daddy and me format. Yeah. It's for like 2 and 3 year olds. Do you guys still do something like that? I think you used to.
We do it once a week.
Us too.
Yeah. I don't personally do that one. But it's pretty popular. There's a lot of turnover in that program, but it's easy. It's fun. They do obstacle courses. They get to learn a little bit of fundamentals, and a lot of those kids will transition into the real programs that I like to teach. So
on the demos for that, you're not directly involved in those, but what is the format? So if you're not directly involved, I assume you train the person on the process that's directly involved. So what's the process on those?
So we have them jump in the class for sure. And then at the end, they're given an enrollment process, but we don't have them do any, because a lot of times we will try the board break with that age sometimes, but like a lot of times they're just not big enough to. If they're 2 years old, they're just learning how to walk really, so it's a little bit harder. But we have them do the obstacle courses. We'll have them do the takedowns. We'll have them do the class. We'll get them excited. At the end, we'll play a game, and then we'll talk about enrollment at the end. Now with that age group, I've noticed it's a little bit easier. Those parents want to enroll their kids in everything. When you have like a new young kid, it's a little bit of an easier process compared to the older kids where the parents are a little bit more picky. But I don't go through this whole process with that young of an age group.
So you said you go through takedowns is one of the things you listed for a 2-year-old. What do you do for takedowns for a 2-year-old?
Well, I'll have them do it with the parent and with the instructor, but single legs, grabbing the single leg, picking the leg up. Like even a 2-year-old can pick up a leg and they can kind of lean on it if they're having balance issues, and learn to trip and learn to run the pipe and learn some really basic single leg stuff. And then top position. Backpack is really popular. Backpack mount, do a lot of that. And then and I will do the homework close where they have to clean the room, so the clean room one, and I'll let them know, hey, mom and dad are allowed to help a little bit, but you have to do a lot of the work in order to earn your white belts. They all want to get the stripes. The big thing in that class is everyone gets a stripe at the end of class. So all those kids want to get their stripe. And once they can't get a stripe once they get their belt. So they have to clean the room to get the belt. And when the parents see that work, that's enough of that age.
Right. So you said backpack and mount. So backpack is basically when the kid is just hanging on their mom or dad.
I'll have them do it with the parent.
Yeah.
Hooks in, seatbelt grip, double underhooks. And controlling that position, we do like a lot of games from there where they try to get shaken off. They got to hold on super tight.
And they're doing that with their parent.
And I have to do it with the parent just for like safety reasons. Sometimes I'll have assistants in there that they can do it with also. It's not every parent can get on the mats. But I'll have like some of my older kids that are like my junior assistants. I'll have them help with that class. And that takes the load off too, especially if the class gets big.
So you mentioned another mount drill, so backpack and a mount. What was the mount drill that you were talking about?
So what I like to have them do is anytime we do any takedown, I have them always look to establish mount. So anytime I mostly focus on getting on top. All right. With that, the younger they are, the easier it is to learn that. Like wrestling's hard to learn when you're an adult if you never wrestled before. But for little kids, I don't know if you ever like taught little kids wrestling. It's like the most natural thing in the world for them. Like they just pick it up so easy. You barely have to show them anything. It's all they can do because they don't have enough balance. Like their head is too heavy for their body. So they have to keep posture correct. They have to put their base on the ground the correct way, like a wrestler does, because they can't really get around it. They don't have the muscle development yet. So when you're teaching a little kid wrestling, it just comes really naturally to them. So I will focus on that, getting a lot of takedowns, getting on top with wrestling movements. And then once we get on top, I want mounted backpack, and they'll just establish it and hold it, and the other person will try to shake them off. And that's like my main focus for that younger age group as far as grappling goes.
So let's go into curriculum and class format first. Before we do that, is there any other comments you want to make about the intro process or the demo or the closing process that's specific to kids or your process?
No, I think that I think I covered most of it. It's there are times where they have to talk to another parent, and what I'll usually try to do is get them to put something. So we have we do like a free intro class, right? But I'll also say, hey, look, we had this old paid trial. It's a 2-class trial. We'll count today as one of them, but like if you pay this $29, I can knock it off your membership next time, just so they have some kind of skin in the game when they come back, and I'll get an idea of how serious they are. And usually when they do that, they pay anything, and I knock it off next time when they sign up, because they're not sure. Well, we have to pick between paying for the year and the $299 down or whatever it is. I'll say, hey, we can knock this off when you come back next time. So I do try to get some kind of a payment out of them. At the very least on that first day, it brings the close rate up a lot. So even if I can't get the full down payment, I want something.
So would you go for that on the kids that that basically they wouldn't try the class, or that like the ones that you were bringing them back in for that second day close? It wasn't just.
Oh, yeah. All right. So the ones that didn't get on the mats at all, no, I'm not. All I'm trying to do is get more time out of them. Yeah, I'm not trying to drive them off. So I will be happy to get their time if I can get another shot out of them, because that's tough. You have to sit there and you watch your kid not do anything for a half hour. It's tough to come back and do that again. So I just try to encourage them, let them know, hey, look, this is normal. Let's come back on Tuesday. Once they've seen the class, it comes better. We'll get them out of the mats a little bit Tuesday. But yeah, if I couldn't get them on the mats at all, I'm not trying to get money out of them. I'm trying to get them to come back.
Okay. So on starting with the very, very young kids, going into like class structure and curriculum. So is there like a typical class structure that's, no matter where you are in the curriculum, that it's going to flow like maybe something at the beginning, warm up or body, and then game at the end, or well, what is it like?
So I run a lot of my classes pretty similar these days. I used to have totally, and this is something like for a long time, I would teach my beginners, my kids, and my adults, and then my fight team, like all totally different ways. And in recent years, I've done a little bit more research, and I've kind of come away from that. And I'm starting to kind of train every year. I train everybody a little bit more like the way I train my fight team. I have made significant changes to the way I train beginners and kids over the past few years. And it's, it hasn't all been taken. It's not all the best for business, but I do feel like it's the best for development. So while I might have taken some hits as far as the business side goes, making these changes, I think in the long run, it's worth it for me. Because of the difference in speed of development I see, as far as people getting better goes. So the way I run my classes now is, I used to do like a pretty traditional, for my main body classes, my kids classes and my adult classes that weren't my fight team. I would always run like a warm up, and then some technical drilling, into live drilling, and then into rolling. Right. And I think that's pretty standard format for, most martial arts schools. And then when it was my fight team, I would just have a position that we were focused on, and we would go straight into like sparring in these situations that were problematic. And now these days, I kind of pinpointed a lot of the common ones that we run into, and I pretty much just do that for everybody now. So I grab these little micro transition situations, and I just work on that mostly. And what I found is that kind of leads to everything else. And it leads to that quick development of being able to utilize the skill sets earlier, so with my kids now, so like this week, my kids, we were working on, I wanted them to develop their half guard skills, right? So I would start them with an underhook, put their head in the box, good head placement, underhook, hand on the ground, leg trapped. And I'd say, all right, person on bottom has to get on top, person on top has to get out of the half guard. You can either run away from it or go to mount or whatever, okay? And I have them go from there. And then I give them some tips in between those drills. And that would be I'd start that as the warm up, I'd have them do some maybe forward rolls and a little parkour off the wall. because I like them to learn that stuff too. They need to learn how to do a forward roll. They need to learn how to do a wall kick. So that's kind of their warm up. And then I have them go right into that technical live drilling. And I spend the body of my class now live drilling, and then they roll at the end. So I kind of cut out a lot more of the old school drilling and the old school warm ups. As I get older, I just do less and less of that.
So for even the younger class, so you said that applies to most of the classes. So for like 2-year-olds, how much live training can we do for 2-year-olds? Do you still?
That's all I do, man. I try to do anything else with 2-year-olds. Shoot, try teaching a 2-year-old how to do a move with like, forget it. They got to go live, you know? So I'll start. It's hard enough to start them. All right, grab your hands around this leg. Now get on top. Go. Don't let go of the leg. Get on top. That's pretty much all I do with them. That's the only way to teach them, I think, you know? So yeah, that's how I do it, you know? Now, as far as, and sometimes I'll start them in positions. All right, hold this position. Don't let them get you off, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm not trying to show them any intricate techniques too much. You know, even when we do striking, yeah, it's going to be kicks, but I'm doing it with, I'm focusing on them, you know, moving into the position correctly and bringing their leg up and throwing the kicks. And, you know, I do some striking with them too. But when it comes to grappling, it's all live pretty much. That's the only way I can. It's so hard to teach. The younger they are, the harder it is to teach them how to do something without doing it live, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's so fascinating that you're starting with live training with like mommy and me age, but like I get it, I understand it. So I mean, what most people I assume do at that age group is no live training like ever, right? And so you're doing the opposite, right?
Yeah,
so you're doing all live training.
Yeah.
So give me some more examples of the live training drills, because probably almost no one else ever is doing this. Probably, I'm guessing.
All right, so we're talking about the mommy and me age ones.
Yeah.
So a lot of that's with the parent. Okay, so it's safe, but like, so that class. All right, so I have my 3 main kids age groups. I have that age group, which, you know, they're once a week. Then I have my 5 to 7-year-olds or whatever. They're Monday through Thursday. I do those pretty much every day. Then I have my main kids group, which is the 8 and up. So on that mommy and me age group, we start off with an obstacle course. Okay, so they're learning a little bit of parkour, some gymnastic stuff, and then at the end we're doing some striking at the end of the obstacle course. All right, it'll be somebody with pads at the end of the obstacle course. They'll do some striking and a takedown. Okay, that is how we start, and they're giving resistance on the takedown, so it's like semi-live, it's like pad work, right? Then when it comes to like the parents part of the class, where they're learning grappling, like it's so hard to teach them how to, like, it's the second you stop, the younger they are, like if they're holding a leg, even with an older kid, you know, they're holding a leg and you're trying to show them how to put their head in the right spot. They're like, they'll move their head and then they let go of the leg. Like they don't get it. Once you tell them, all right, I need you to hold this leg and use your head to push them down and circle until they go down or get on top of them. Well, they'll figure that part out. So, they just need some guidance. And when they're making mistakes, that's where your coaching comes in, right? So like, all right, well, the reason that you didn't get on top is because you let go of the leg and you moved your head over here. Let's put your head back where it was and make sure we grab the leg lower. You're grabbing too high on the leg. You need to keep your hands connected, you know, little things like that. And then they can start to see that development. And then, you know, the parents are going to be the ones working with the little kids. So they're going to be giving a little bit of resistance, but they're going to kind of be going with the flow. So even though it's live, it's not like totally competitive live, right? But I'm having that kid drive their mom over, grab the leg and drive her over, you know? We start, if we do the backpack, I'm having the mom kind of try to shake them off a little bit, you know, safely, but like they're trying to shake them off. That kid's holding on for real, you know? I think that kind of development allows them to be able to grab these positions and hold on to them, you know, and when they do it with kids their age, it's a lot easier. And then at the younger age group, it's kind of limited how much I put them with each other, you know, because they'll freak out sometimes. But once they get to like the 4 and 5-year-old age, they're going together all the time and doing this all the time.
So yeah, moving up to the next age category of 4 and 5-year-olds. So that's a without the parent class.
Yeah.
All right. And so you're doing all these things with another kid now?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
and there is a lot of instructor help there, especially for the beginners. Like, so the biggest thing is getting them in the right position to start. Okay. And then what happens is after, so let's say, so I guess like a lot of the old school method is like teaching people how to put their body in the right position. I don't really, I guess what I do is I put them in that position They can feel it. And then I have them put themselves in that position instead of telling them how to do it. And then if they don't do it right, I'll help them get into that position. I won't really tell them though. I just make sure that they're in the right position. I say, go from here. And then once they get comfortable, like, all right, well, once I'm here, I can get on top. This is easy. Well, it's all right. Now you just have to get there, right? And then they find ways to get there, and it happens pretty naturally. So, like I was saying, we did the half guard this week, right? We did some old school half guard. So I had kids start with the underhook, sitting up like Damian Maya style, hook the leg. I put them there. I put their ear, one hip to the ground, one hand on the ground, underhook, ear in the chest, step over the outside leg. And I'd have them get on top. And a lot of times at first they're getting flattened out and mounted, right? I say, all right, well, you're not hipping out enough. Try to come up to your knees a little faster, push into them, get your hips back more when you push into them. And then all of a sudden they start doing it. And then they start winning every single time. So it's competitive, right? The other kid's trying to win. But when they start winning every single time, like after, because it doesn't take that much adjustment. If I start you in that position, you have such a huge advantage. It's almost hard to lose there, right? So this is called, like, in Rob Gray's book, he talks about this. It's called errorless learning, where you start really close to the finish line. So you can get comfortable winning. And then as the finish line gets further away, it seems more surmountable, right? So if I start you with an underhook and your head in the chest and a base and your hips out from underneath somebody and you have the half guard and all you have to do is get up to your base, that isn't that hard to do. It's a lot of work for the guy on top to stop that, right? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So by starting you that close to the finish line, I'm showing you how easy it is to make this advantage position happen. And you're learning how to do that. And you're learning like, oh, this is great. And then all we have to do is figure out, all right, well, if I can get to this position, I know I can win from there. I'm good at that. And then we work on ways to get to that position. So now it's like, all right, guys, now I need you to get your head in the box and get the underhook and then get up to your hip. Okay. And we work on that. So now they have a way to get there. So I'll say, I'll start them in a slightly different situation where now the other kid has better head placement. So we got to move their head and with the underhooks, we got to move their head, get our head in the box and then do the move, and I keep it all alive because I noticed that when I do that, they tend to apply it way quicker. They learn it way quicker as opposed to me having them run through the motions and then try to use it. It's just, it seems to take so much longer, from my experience. With kids, they don't quite get the position right either. Like they'll always have something loose. They'll never have the tightness where it needs to be. They'll always have their hips out of position. So that even when they're practicing it, they're not practicing it correctly because they don't know how to position their body. They don't know how to create that realistic resistance in their head, so they're just kind of going through motions. And then when they try to use it live, they get frustrated, So by applying it live right away, it's like, if it's not working, I can see that and I can fix it right away. I'd be like, all right, well, this is why it's not working. Let's get your hips out. All right, well, now they're fighting you out anyway. Well, then we can go to deep half under the hips and out the back door. So now when they push into you that hard, no matter, this guy's bigger than you, he's pushing into that hard. Now I want you to reach under his leg and come up on the single leg behind him. Okay. All right. You flatten you out, go up behind him, go under his hips and out behind him. And then, oh, they stood up, their leg is straight. Well, let's switch from the underhook up here. Let's just grab their leg. Now we got a single leg. Okay. So now we have 3 options depending on what they do. And that's pretty much all they can do from there. Right. And then by the end of that class, they have a pretty full game from that one position where they're confident and comfortable. That's just what I did last week. So that's why I was fresh in my head.
Right. So in terms of giving instructions for these drills on and when telling training partner like how to resist, exactly what to do, when to stop, what would you say there? You're just like, hey, flatten them out, go, and then you say when to stop? Or
oh yeah, no, if I give them a goal, once they hit that goal, it's time to stop. We start over, or the other person goes, depending on how we're doing it, So
and you explain that each time.
Absolutely, yeah, I explain it each time, and I explain, and if they have trouble following directions, I get with them directly, and yeah, but that is the time to stop. I want them to get. So, and the way I see it is like, so being able to come up to your base with an underhook and the half guard is a really valuable skill, right? And I would say it's a really important skill if you want to be able to use your half guard to get on top of people. And it's also really easy to get to. It's not a difficult position to make happen. So the way I see it, if I can spend a lot of time there and have a kid spend a lot of time there and develop that skill, then all they need to do is get there, right? So it's easy it's not that hard to get to. And if they can have all those reps, like if you're just doing that when you're rolling, if the only live time you get is if you're rolling or if you're doing some positional training, even if you just like do half guard positional training and you do the whole thing where you have to get the full sweep or whatever, you might only get a couple dozen reps in on that, right? So you might only get a couple dozen reps in.
On this, they just have to get up to their knees.
Yeah. And then I get hundreds of reps in just a couple rounds, it's, they can get like a year's worth of training on that one position, and it goes a long way.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going? Fine.
We're here on the Red Belt Podcast, and we're actually doing a second shoot of this one. So we have that intro from the last one that we'll actually plug into this at some point. But I'm super excited to do this interview with Mike, even though I've done a piece of it before, because Mike is just so amazing at these intros. I'm going to learn something about it. Again, I'm sure, and I know you guys will as well. Mike is a super, super successful gym owner. I guess he owns 2 gyms now. And he's closed kids at 90% rate on a month that he enrolled 100 people before, and like crazy stuff. And he's super good at this private intro model that I want to talk to him about, that and kids signups, kids in the gym, all of that. So great to have you on, Mike. So before we get into that, I know I introduced you. Tell us a little bit about your background and you and your gym.
Yeah, so I guess I've been here in Mississippi now since 2010. I moved out here when I was in my early 20s to work with Alan. I guess my jiu-jitsu coach at the time, who was Daniel Moraes, he was training Alan to fight Damian Maia. He had worked with Alan for a couple fights before that. Alan was going to fight Damian Maia. It was going to be his first main event on a UFC fight night. It was going to be in Rio de Janeiro. So they were going to go down to Rio, train in Rio for a month or so, or a couple of weeks, and then Alan was going to do his fight, and then he was going to come back. The only problem was he had, I guess, Israel Gomez was teaching jiu-jitsu here at the time, and Israel was moving, and he was like, starting an association and moving around and stuff like that. So he didn't have anyone to teach jiu-jitsu. So my instructor was like, well, I got this guy, Mike, he can come out there and do it for a couple of weeks, and recommended me. And I was super excited because I was really into MMA. I was actually a big Alan Belcher fan at the time. And I couldn't wait to get out there, and because I've been working a lot of grappling, and I wanted to improve my striking and getting some fights and stuff too. And Alan's like, yeah, we'll help you do that and all this. And so I wanted to build that connection. So I was supposed to be out here for 2 weeks. I came out, took over the jiu-jitsu, started teaching, and when Alan came back, the class was like twice as big, and he hired me on full time and moved me and my wife out here. So I've been here ever since. And then eventually, I ended up managing the gym, becoming the head coach, and eventually a partner with Alan, and now I'm the owner. Alan just sold me the whole place. Alan just trains now. He decided to start fighting again, got his world title in boxing, and sold me the rest of the gym. So now I've got 2 locations, which is kind of cool, but also, it presents double the challenges too, right? Yeah, with staff and stuff like that. So that's my career as a business martial artist. And, I did wrestling and boxing when I was a kid growing up, and a lot of traditional martial arts, but my passion is mixed martial arts. Because of mixed martial arts, I became a jiu-jitsu black belt. And, I love everything about jiu-jitsu and MMA.
Okay, awesome, man. So I think right here, I'd like to talk a little bit about the kids, the demo and the process. So we'll go ahead and put in that clip from the other podcast. We're going to merge 2 podcasts together. Before we do that, is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to like a kid's intro, it's going to vary a bit depending on the age that you're working with. So when we talked about this a little bit last time, unfortunately, a lot of that, is probably not going to make the cut. But the biggest thing is if you have kids that are very young, like they haven't reached that, we call it the age of reason, like 7, 8 years old. Some kids it's younger. I've seen 4-year-olds that were like, blow your mind, but once they hit that age of reason, that's when the intro lesson works best. Okay. When you can actually like negotiate with them a little bit and they're reasonable. Before they become reasonable, don't even like, if they want to sit next to mom, just have them come into the class. Cause this way, at least they can watch the class. And you can always, those kids, you're not going to get on the first day. All right. Don't even try. If they don't jump on the mats, they don't try class, don't try to sign them up. You're just going to drive mom away. To have them watch the class, try to get them to jump into the game, and then have them come next time and try the class. Then once they've participated a little bit, then do the intro lesson at the end of that class. Like, do the basic punches, board break, mount position, and the homework. All right. With the white belt. That's key. And the way you win those kids over, especially the shy kids, is with that little high five trick, right? Me and Brian were talking about this before the recording started. But man, holding out my hand and having kids miss the low five. All right. Say, hey, what's your name? I'm Coach Mike. And they tell me their name and I say, all right, give me 5. And I make them miss. All right. That right there wins over like every kid. I make them miss twice and I let them get me on the 3rd one. Sometimes they're quick and they get me on the 2nd one. I give them props, but kids love that. Absolutely love that. If a kid doesn't like that, then they're probably not going to sign up anyway, but I've never had it happen. Like they love that. And then the listening positions, attention. All right. Make them say yes, sir. And lock it up like a sitting position. Make them say yes, sir. When the parents see you do that, they are floored. They're like, I've never seen anyone make my kid pay attention like this before, and you did it in 5 minutes. Like they get their mind blown and they're already ready to go. Then you just got to show them some cool moves and win them over with that intro lesson. So the attention positions win the mom over. The high five gets the kid's attention. The moves make the kids have fun. The board break sells the kid. And then the white belt homework close sells the parents. And then you got them. It's a very high close rate when you do it like that.
Yeah. So what I was talking about before this, so we'll clip that other piece in there so people can see that demo. But what we were talking about before this is that you said the most important part was that missed high five, and important number 2 is the attention positions, and most people wouldn't think that, because even after I've seen you do this before, I'm aware of your demo. I basically try to do a version of your demo at my gym, and I try to teach my instructors that to do that. And I'm not saying we never do that, but it's like I didn't gather that was the priority. So man, we need to highlight the importance of that piece.
I think it's one of those things where it slips on. It's like invisible jiu-jitsu, it kind of slips under the radar how vital that is. It's kind of like if you see somebody pass the guard into mount, you think, oh, I just need to get into mount, but you don't see them controlling the hips and flattening the person out. It just kind of happens, right? But that's how you get to mount, is by flattening the person out and controlling the hips, and it's kind of like that. It's like, this is how you get them to be ready to learn something and have fun. You got to it shifts their mindset into the mindset where they're ready to learn. Because if you don't do that and you're trying to show them how to throw a punch and they're not into it, they're gonna stay not into it. But once you make them smile, it changes everything. And it's impossible, it's almost impossible for a kid not to smile a little bit, at least on the inside, when you make them miss a low 5.
Yeah. So this stuff, I think these things right here is one of my main reasons for wanting to do this podcast, for these little things. And forever I didn't get it. But what Mike just said there about the jiu-jitsu, the small things like the flatten out to be able to pass the guard, and even distribute pressure to be able to flatten them out, that sort of thing is the stuff that if you teach jiu-jitsu, you know about that sort of thing. But if you a lot of jiu-jitsu guys in business, that's why we don't a lot of people don't get it, that it goes so deep. And in my experience, as I go back through and try to optimize my gym, I have issues with stuff like not working. It's not the big things, it's the little things. The little things are the big things. The difference in maybe even a 40% close rate and 80% close rate might be a handful of little things. You agree with that, Mike?
Absolutely. Definitely. I wouldn't even say might be. It's almost definitely a handful of little things.
Yeah. And I gave 40% is pretty not good. Right. So under 50%, that's pretty not good. And 80% is that's the lowest, that's the white belt to the black belt level.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Yeah. It's that's exactly what it is. Yeah. 40% you can do by accident, even if your prices are kind of high. You can put anybody on just all right, show these people the prices and you'll probably get about 40% as long as your classes are good, right?
Yeah, maybe. I would argue it depends. I would argue not. And here's why I would say that. If you're talking about referrals and SEO leads, you're correct. People that search BJJ in your area or whatever, you'll sign them, but still it depends on your process. Are you letting them try a class? Are you just I'll tell you what I did. The very first week I was in business, before I pursued everything, I copied somebody locally. I thought, right? I wasn't really copying, because their offer was 30 days free, but it was actually the Lloyd Irvin old bait and switch 30 days free, where you promise them 30 days free and then you try to sign them on the first day. I did an actual 30 days free, right? Yeah. I've never done the bait and switch. I would never do that. That seems scummy. right? So, which means I didn't even talk to you about signing up afterwards, right? So because of that, I didn't get anywhere close to 40% on people that searched it out and liked it. But yeah, with referral, you might could get close. But I would say, yeah, I mean, it depends on how bad you are. Like I was so awful at it, and then we've got all the way up.
You telling them to try the other gyms out first to see who's the best?
I don't know if we said that, but like, heck, we probably did.
Try everyone out.
If they brought it up, we probably did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going from there, I've talked to I've been talking about, I have Red Belt software that I talk to a lot of different gym owners, and I ask them about their numbers, talks about how we could help them with stuff like that. Mainly we're helping them with other numbers other than sales. But yeah, I mean, most common is people don't know their numbers. If you dial into it, and like their numbers are actually really bad. Most people's numbers are really bad. So,
oh, yeah.
But and they think the issue is their leads, but it's usually this stuff that we're talking about on here, the little stuff. So in terms of, you really quickly threw out the different things you thought were a priority a second ago, but like, can we go over that list again on most the least important of those key details and talk about a little bit of them?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, obviously it all starts on the phones, I don't know how far back you want to go, but, the appointment being set, the way that they're spoken to on the phone, when they walk in the door, that's all a big part of it. Right. Especially for the parent. Where I like to consider that the intro lesson starts is whenever whoever the appointment setter was kind of hands them off to the instructor. Right. So the stuff the instructor is responsible for is kind of where I started. And the very beginning of that, for me, most of the time is going to be that interview sheet, because I'll usually have the front, whoever's working the front, my appointment setter kind of do the waiver. Sometimes they'll do the interview sheet, but I prefer for the instructor doing the intro lesson to do the interview sheet. But sometimes they don't, sometimes they're not able to. And sometimes it makes more sense for the person at the front to do it. But that interview sheet is key, obviously. It kind of kills objections before they start. It gets people into a mindset to buy. And it goes a long way in showing them the value of the program. You don't have time to explain every bit of value in an intro lesson if you're doing it right. Anyway, you want to do it quick, right? You want it to be short and sweet. You want to smile, sweat, and learn. But you in that short, sweet time, you can't tell them about every possible thing you can do for them, right? The interview sheet kind of grazes on everything that it does for people and all the reasons people join and all the benefits you can get out of it. So it kind of like gets people thinking about that before the intro lesson starts, and then they can see it for themselves in the intro lesson, right? So the interview sheet is key. Making sure you have a good interview sheet goes a long way. Then once the instructor gets a hold of the kid, it's a matter of, introduction. And in that introduction, that high five is everything, introduce yourself to the parent and then introduce yourself to the kid. Hey, I'm Coach Brian. I'm Coach Mike. What was your name? Oh, John. Great to meet you, John. Give me 5. And then make them miss. And then make them miss again. Hey, you got to be quick to catch a ninja. That's what I say. I stole that word from one of my kids instructors. And this guy was just phenomenal with his getting kids on the mat that were like nervous. And ever since then, it's been a key in my sales process. And it works awesome. And it builds like a little bit of a bond with the kid, like right off the bat. Like they can't help but smile once you do that. And then once they've missed twice, I let them hit me on the third time. Sometimes they get me on the second one. It's all good. And then after that, I say, all right, now we're going to get on the mats. I explain why we train barefoot, what the uniforms do, like, hey, sometimes we're going to train in a gi, and you see the guys wearing belts out here, that represents their ranks. Okay. But you have to earn your white belt. You can't just wear that. That's why once you have your white belt, you're officially a martial artist. And martial artists, I control the dangerous moves too, like chokeholds and head kicks and stuff like that. I can't really show you any of that until you've earned your white belt. So I kind of pre-frame the value of having a white belt and becoming a martial artist with that. And then I say, but for right now, we're going to talk about how to earn your white belt later. For right now, I want to show you some basics. So let's get on the mats. We're going to train barefoot. 2 reasons. I want to keep the mats clean and sanitary. When you have shoes on, you go outside with your shoes. Sometimes you get germs in the bottom of your shoes. I don't want those germs on the mats. So we're going to make sure we train barefoot with clean feet. Also, shoes protect your feet too much. I want to make your feet stronger. So take your shoes off. We're going to make your feet strong by training barefoot on the mats. It's going to keep the mats clean. It's going to make your feet stronger. Okay. So I give them good reasons to train barefoot. And I say, now the gi that they're wearing, that represents clothing. and we learn how to use clothes as a weapon, but we don't want to rip your shirt every time we train, right? So some days we train in the gi, some days we do no gi. On the gi days, we grab the clothes and use it as a weapon. On the no gi days, we practice not grabbing the clothes and using the body instead. Today, we're just going to do some no gi stuff since you don't have a gi yet. And then I'll bring them on the mats and I'll say, all right, first thing we're going to learn is our fighting stance. But before we even do that, I need to make sure that you know how to pay attention and listen carefully, because the things that I'm showing you are dangerous and they can hurt people. All right. I'm going to show you things that could actually like break arms and break legs. And I need to make sure you're going to pay attention and do this safely. Do you think you can do that? And I make sure that they agree. Once they do that, I say, all right, the first thing I need you to learn is how to stand at attention. Whenever I say attention, you're going to go to listening position number 1. That's hands and feet by your side, standing up straight, feet together, hands by your side. And whenever I say attention, I want you to say, yes, sir, as loud as I said attention or louder. You ready? Attention. And then they say, yes, sir, kind of soft. I say, all right, that's not going to cut it. And I make them match my volume, and they always do. You know, I say attention, then they say, yes, sir. And then the mom's like, wow, that was pretty impressive. After that, I show them listening position number 2, which is a grounded position. I'll have them crisscross applesauce. And I say, all right, anytime I say lock it up, we're going to go to crisscross applesauce on the ground. I'm going to have you cross your legs, sit with your hands on your knees, eyes on me. And again, we're going to say attention as loud as I did. And then this time they've kind of got the hang of it, and they usually get it on the first try. I say, all right, lock it up. And then they say, yes, sir, nice and loud, you know? And then I say, all right, finally, sometimes whenever I'm showing something, we get a little distracted. It happens. All right. It's normal. If you guys get distracted, I might say eyes on who. Anytime I say eyes on who, I want you to repeat back to me, eyes on you. And then I say eyes on who. And then the kids say, sometimes they just say you, sometimes they say eyes on you. I say, all right, great job. Now we're ready to learn. Okay. After that, the mom is like on the side watching, like, is that my kid? You know? And like right off the bat, the mom is like all about it. And the kids are now like, they're kind of, you know, they're ready to learn some cool moves. I already kind of pre-framed that I'm going to show them how to break somebody's arm. Who doesn't want to learn how to do that? So then at that point, I show them their fighting stance, basic punches like we did in the intro lesson, basic kick, and then I'll get into the 3 T's sometimes and a takedown, and the talk, tell, tackle thing, takedown, controlling mount position, and then I'll do the board break. And then after they break their board, I have the homework close, and I make sure, you know, the kids and mom are together. I ask how clean the room is, F- to A+. The kids agree to get it to A+. I got text message. I'll show you text message I got from one of the guys last week. This is a guy brought his kid in. Kid's kind of like, you know, been getting in trouble a little bit. And I had him do a intro lesson, and I think it was like right after our podcast too. He said his kid, all he talked about all night and this morning was going back today and getting his white belt. He disappeared into his room, came out 30 minutes later to come check his room, and it was spotless. He said, you got to tell Coach Mike he gets an A+. You know, like, you've never seen the room that clean before, you know? So like the parents are like loving that, you know? And once they do that, they've earned their white belt. And then I give them their white belt to the parent. They come in wearing their white belt next time. And I tell them, all right, now you can learn the dangerous moves. Now you can start earning stripes in your belt, working towards the next belt, which is, you know, high white belt or gray belt.
All right. So we'll go ahead and put a demo here or here or here, somewhere like that.
Perfect.
Okay. So now a couple of comments here. So I was talking to somebody recently about the waiver sheets and opinions of waiver sheets. I want to go back to that. And one reason I want to have a lot of guests is different successful people with different methods. But what he's talking about with like a survey sheet or waiver, basically it's the basic waiver, and Mike has some a whole bunch of different benefits, like 20 different benefits that they could check off, like discipline, different things, and fitness, all sorts of things. And it quickly sells them on the benefits, or like shows them that they might not have things that they might not have thought about. Recently somebody was telling me that they didn't like it, and they run a different demo. They run a consult, but they don't do a physical piece. So they basically believe they don't like the dead time of and if you do talk to them, they think it makes it awkward. They don't like the dead time of that sheet. They think that basically you need to be asking them and digging that information about. They're very question-based selling, and which I know you do some of that in your consult. too, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think if somebody's not doing a private demo, like if you were right after COVID, or if you were just not going to do, for whatever reason, you weren't doing that, do you think the demo sheet, would you still use it, or do you think it's not as good there?
So they're going like straight into like closing then right off the
So,
bat.
so basically they do a tour, they talk to them, they spend 15 minutes talking to this person, and then they're going to ask them to sign up
Oh, okay. Without any training.
without any training.
Oh, that's yeah, I think that's tougher to me. You know, I don't have a lot of experience with that. And I have seen that done, especially with like personal training. You know, I know it's big in the personal training community, and I've seen people kill it like that. But I haven't personally done that. But yeah, I would definitely be asking a lot of questions, and I would be making it very personalized to them. As far as like what I'm selling them, I think that's important for that. But I personally, I feel most comfortable, and I feel it's easiest for me to sign somebody up, especially with martial arts, after showing them, like letting them feel the value of what I'm going to teach them. You know, I think that plays a big role in my confidence as a salesperson. You know, and being able to,
Absolutely. The biggest issue with the private lesson model,
yeah.
so I've done both.
Mhm.
In my opinion, is I've seen your gym and your staff, and I know that this isn't really an issue for you. You have like private lesson rooms and stuff. But for me, at prime time, which sometimes it's very hard to get somebody in not after prime time, and I have classes all during prime time. So stay starting at 5 o'clock till late. I've got classes. So and some people are not going to go for coming in the middle of the day, or a dead time. So the consult model is handy when you can take somebody in an office, or just talk to them real quickly, let them see, talk to them, and then sign them up. So your thoughts on that, and or what you would do to still use your model there?
Yeah, I'm sure it can work effectively, because I know it works really well in the personal training community. You know, so and I've seen personal trainers make a killing like that. So I'm sure that there's good ways to adapt it for martial arts. I just don't have experience with it personally. You know, I definitely like to make them do something physical and see, you know, what I want them to be able to show them, let them feel it, you know, let them feel the power a little bit. But if I was going to adapt my system for that, I would definitely, you know, I would. So if I'm not going to do any kind of physical anything with them,
Or in the scenario I just gave you, if you're going to do what you would do. So
oh yeah, yeah.
you're not at your gym
Uh-huh.
anymore. You're at a gym with one room, and you're at prime time, and this person is in. What are we doing now?
Oh, well, do I have an assistant instructor?
Let's give it both scenarios.
All right. So if I have an assistant instructor, well, first of all, I'm going to lay out my schedule in a way that I can still do an intro lesson at some point, somehow. Okay. I don't care if I have to have a senior student start my warm up in the next class or something like that. I'm going to give them an intro lesson if I'm trying to sign them up. Now, if I don't think they had a good time, or something went wrong, I'm in a terrible mindset for some reason, I might have them come back. But if I am wanting to sign this person up and I feel like they had a good class, I'm definitely doing an intro lesson. So let's say I have an assistant instructor or a senior student. I'm gonna, if I can get them in there in the beginning of class, I might do that while I have my assistant do a warm up. I'll do an intro lesson for the new student, and I'll do exactly everything the same. I'm going to run through it pretty quickly. And while they're starting off on their partner drills or their warm up or whatever we're doing in that class, I'm going to do this intro lesson on the side, and then I will sign them up, or I'll run the sales process. And then once they agree to enroll, I will have whoever is at my register fill out the paperwork, and I'll go back, take over the class. You know, if I and if I can't, if they come a little late or something like that and I'm already teaching, I'll have them jump in the class. I'll have them participate in the class as best they can. I'll make sure that they go with a good partner the whole time. It's going to kind of help them and not discourage them, and, you know, work well with them so they have a good time. And then at the very end of the class, I'll have my assistant or a senior student start the next class, and I'll do the intro class with them after class, and then sign them up after that. you know, and again, I do that a lot. So there's definitely a lot of times where even though I do have the space and I do have the time, like my staff got into a kind of a bad habit of just throwing people into classes, you know, for their first class. Just like it's a bad habit. It's easy to fall into that. I'm about to crack down on it now, honestly. I'm going to start like this week. I'm going to start having everyone scheduled for intro lessons unless they absolutely can't make it, you know? Because like what it is, it starts like that. And then if you don't stay on top of it, like if you're out of town or do 3 fights in a row, your staff just starts doing whatever's easiest again. and, and then all of a sudden your numbers aren't as good as they were. So I'm about to crack down on it and start doing my intro lesson scheduled all day again. But in the meantime, if they can't make it and I have to do it in class, I will. I'll do it at the end of class or in the beginning of class, and I'll have my assistant just run the class during that time. I'll just get through quick.
What if the class doesn't match the person? Like it's not the class that person would be, and that could be in different levels of extremes. Or will you still run it on the side like that?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will.
What if it's a kid and an adult class is going on? All of that. So
I've done that. I've done that plenty of times. Now, obviously, if you're very, very tight on space, it can be tough. I mean, but I'll set up a divide. I have so I don't know if you can see this, but on the other side of my gym over here, I'm gonna try to turn this thing around. You can see these let me see if I can hold this thing. I'm stupid. See those like folding mats that I have vertical on the other side of the gym over there? So I have those. Those are cheap. All right. Those are like $100 for those accordion style mats, or I don't know. They're not much, 100, $200 maybe. And I've got a bunch of those, and I just set them up vertical and make like little dividers, and I'll make like a little private area, you know, and I'll do the intro lesson behind that. I do that all the time. So I'll do a little private intro lesson behind those mats, set them up vertical. I'll even use that to split the mat sometimes, you know, and carve off a little area so I can do an intro lesson for a kid, even when I have like a Muay Thai class going on the other side of it or whatever, you know.
So so if you have a parent there, you're going to need that to be at the side, and then that to divide from the rest of the class.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll section off a little corner of the mat and have the parent kind of come over and watch on that little corner of the mat or whatever, you know. But yeah, I would say if you have a small space and you don't have private rooms, invest in some of those. I don't even know what they call them, like the accordion style mats. I don't know, what do you call those things? But those things are great because you can use them as like a crash pad. It's like an extra 2 inches of soft foam, and you can just set them up vertical, and now you got partitions, you know, and you can pile them up and make things to jump off of, and like vaults for parkour and like all kinds of cool stuff. I use those things all the time.
Yeah. All right. So about if you're doing I know we didn't talk about it that much, but like a fitness kickboxing demo or a demo like that where you're gonna like hold mitts for someone. And then I know I've seen you do it before. Like you do the whole fall down and let them finish you off.
Yeah, they love
it. And so that you would do that the same thing, divide it off. Even if people are rolling there, you would divide it off and still do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
For an adult. Can you talk a little bit about
now
it could be that intro?
Yeah, well, you do have to be a little bit more wary, especially like a lot of adults are much, you know, everyone has their insecurities, right? But a lot of adults getting into fitness, they're going to be a little bit different level of you know, insecure. They don't want people looking at them when they work out. That's one of their biggest fears that keeps them out of the gym sometimes. Is like, oh, I don't want people looking at me and judging me and all this. And that's why like Planet Fitness has that $1 billion, you know, no judgment zone where they, you know, only judge bodybuilders apparently, you know, and kick bodybuilders out of the gym. But like this no judgment thing, you know, it's like $1 billion campaign because that is what keeps people out of the gym, like regular people. It stops them from paying you, you know. So you have to keep that in mind. And if you have somebody that's very shy, make sure you have a very private area for them for their first class. And, you know, they're going to need extra encouragement. But if they receive that extra encouragement, and if you have a culture in your gym that's very welcoming, that goes miles with those people. Like if there's a jiu-jitsu class going on, everyone's introducing themselves and saying hi and, you know, making them feel good, even if they're a kickboxer, like that is a good culture. And that like that accepting culture is what makes people want to join a lot of times. So sometimes having a class going on that's not related to them can be a huge benefit if you have the right people in that class and the right culture in that class, you know. I've had tons of times where like people would just sign up because, you know, a few of my guys were talking to them before the class and they love the environment, you know. And once you get that cooking, that's great.
So for now we're kind of all over the place, but
yeah, we are.
Yeah. For that, that's fine. For that, I've noticed not just my gym, but a lot of places, it's a bit divisionary, especially in between fitness, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu. Like we at my gym, we have Muay Thai in between, but like that's so what is there things you can do to make those people want to go up and talk to a fitness kickboxer? For another thing, like you have a middle-aged woman that may be kind of overweight and is self-confident, and then you have somebody, a bunch of guys rolling, getting ready for the next jiu-jitsu tournament. What, like, that's so different type of person. What can you do with the culture, or is it unrealistic to expect those person to go greet that person, like, and interact with that person?
Well, those are great questions, and it is tough. Here's the thing that I've noticed, because I've had it in my gym where like we had a super tight knit family environment amongst everybody, and then the gym gets gigantic and huge, and then you hire all these extra instructors, and then all of a sudden it starts feeling more divided, and then it shrinks down again. It feels tight knit and and then it kind of goes a little bit. But then instructor, then when I opened up my other location, it was like 2 locations, and it wasn't as tight knit anymore. And then then we start having instructors, open their own gyms. Like, it can just be all over the place, right? And not to get too all over the place. The reason that this came up, just to backtrack a little bit, was because we were talking about doing an intro lesson on the same mat as a totally unrelated class. So it's not too far off track because this is related to that. All right.
Yeah.
But as far as like building that culture goes, I think the biggest thing is the leader. Like, and this is what I've learned more than anything else. My biggest weakness by far has always been my leadership skills. All right. And that seems like a weird thing to say for me because I've been the head coach at this gym for 13 years now, and the gym's had a lot of success, right? But I've always, as a leader, I've always kind of preferred to act as a lieutenant. Like I'll teach my classes, I'll run the curriculums, and I'll lead certain groups, but I never tried to lead everybody like a president. I was always more like, I'm going to lead the instructors, I'm going to lead the jiu-jitsu guys, I'm going to lead the MMA guys, and I'm going to have this person lead the kickboxers, and this person lead the fitness people. And that is where that divide comes in. All right. When you have somebody, if you're like, so let's say right now, what I'm going to do to build this culture in my gym again, and I'm starting on it now, I'm getting in all the classes. I'm going to teach I'm going to teach at least a fitness kickboxing class every week and get to know everybody in that class. I'm going to teach a Muay Thai class every week and get to know everyone in that class. I'm going to train in the classes that I don't teach and get to know everyone in that class. And then when we have parties, we're going to kind of have parties together, like, holiday parties, things like that, kind of bring everyone together, play games together, bring the kids in to hit the bounce house together, doing those events is kind of where the team comes together. But having a leader that leads the whole gym and not just certain groups in the gym is what I found helps bridge those gaps the most, and then just, having like, ask your guys like, hey, when I have somebody new in here, if you don't mind, I ask the people that it's like fits their personality. Cause it's not, some people it's going to be harder than others. Some people are naturally very introverted, as I'm sure all right. And I know I'm believe it or not, I'm really introverted person. I've had to train really hard to like overcome that. And I still struggle with it. Naturally, when I see somebody I don't know, I just don't even think to say anything to them ever. I have to really force myself to say hi and introduce myself. But I have students that are just super awesome, extroverted people. And I just encourage them, hey, anytime you see somebody here that you don't recognize, please go introduce yourself, ask them about themselves a little bit. And I kind of build up like let them know that's something I desire. That's something I really want to see in my gym. And when they do it, then it reminds me to do it, and it helps make it easier for the people that aren't as extroverted, So I think having a few guys, and every gym has a few guys like that or a few girls like that are just really friendly, like encouraging those people to be friendly, which is natural for them, can help open up everyone else to be more friendly, and then make people feel more welcome. So from my experience, whenever you fuel that, it can make a big difference.
Yeah, really good stuff, Mike. That's definitely something that we're working on at my gym too. So back to the intro, right? So that's you have people from outside the class, greet them if they're available, hopefully. So you're doing all that, and then at the end, it's noisy. So you go into an office or somewhere to present. Are you doing still a lot of questions? How long after that intro before you present prices usually for you?
Pretty quick. I mean, I've cut it down quite a bit over the years because what I've noticed is that like when they're ready to sign up, I'm signing them up, you know? So my big thing is I'll do the interview sheet before they do any training. And then I'm going to do majority of the closing the training. So with the fitness kickboxing intro lesson, I'm going to show them basic fighting stance, basic punches, basic kicks, the stuff they're going to be doing pretty much every class. And then I'm going to do them a quick workout on the pads or on the bag. Sometimes I'll do it on the bag and I'll knock the bag down, but I like to do it on the pads. I like them to feel some pad work. But if they're going into a class that doesn't have a lot of pad work, I don't want them to get like a, you know, a bait and switch kind of feel, you know. I'll let them know, hey, most of this you're going to be doing on the bags, but once in a while we're going to work on the pads too. And I'll have them do the knockout. All right. And they love this. I'll have them hit on the combo on the pads. I'll be like, all right, now big hard right hand counter. And I'll have them throw their best punch. And when they land it, I fall down and I say, all right, now straddle and ground and pound. I'll have them stand over me and just throw down punches until they gas out. And for most people, it doesn't take much. They're hitting hard and they're hitting fast. They get tired really quick. All right. Even a good athlete will get tired quick, throwing as hard as they can, as fast as they can. But somebody that's out of shape and looking to get in shape, they're going to be gassed out very quickly. So the intro lesson doesn't have to be long to give somebody the feeling that they're exhausted at the end of it, right? I can give them a 1 minute intro lesson and exhaust somebody. You know, it's brand new. So once they're punching down, I see them getting tired, then I pretend like I'm dead. And I'd be like, all right, good job. You got the knockout, give them a high five. They're like, oh my God, I'm dying. All right. And then they start feeling the endorphins. They realize this is an amazing workout. They feel it in their muscles. I always ask them what muscle group they want to work on. And I'll have them tighten that muscle group. And I say, hey, you feel that in your abs? You feel that in your arms? All right. You feel that in your shoulders, whatever they wanted to work on. And they're like, oh yeah, it's all right. It's going to get your cardio good too. You know, the first couple of weeks is the toughest, but if we stay on track, you're going to start feeling a lot better and looking a lot better in a short period of time. Say, you have fun today? Is this what you're looking for? Are you ready to keep doing this? And when they say yes, then I pull out the prices and I sign them up, you know? Sorry, these are our options. You know, we have option one is always my paid in full option. This, you don't have to do any monthly payments. This covers the whole year. This one saves you the most money if you have it. And I throw in some extra equipment. And if they don't want to do that, I say, all right, we can break it up into monthly. We have a few different options with down payments. You know, I'll show them those. And then I let them pick one.
Yeah. So you don't do a lot of question based. You do the intro sheet. You don't ask about. So you do ask. What do you ask at that first piece?
So before the lesson?
Yeah.
I'm going to do all my interview sheet questions. Like, you know, does your spouse support your significant other support your decision to get into this? How long have you been thinking about doing this? That's a big one. Because most of the time it's not usually like a couple days, you know, they're usually like, oh, my whole life, you know, 5 years, you know, I wanted to do this since I was a little kid. It's like, all right, great. Well, now you don't need to think about it, you know, when we leave here, you know, once we're done. And then what stopped you from getting into it sooner? You know, is that still an issue? You know, well, I didn't have a job, but now I have a job. Great. Then we know that's not an issue anymore, right? And I asked them what their schedule was like and when they're going to train next. And then I say, all right, well, our classes are Monday and Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Is that a good time for you? Because we also have a Tuesday and Thursday at 5 o'clock. Which one of those is better? And they say, oh, the Monday, Wednesday is perfect. All right, great. Now I know that they have a time they can commit to and do it. That's in line with our schedule. So those are the main things I look for. The main objections I'm going to run into. All right, I have to talk to my wife or my husband. I have to think about it. I need more time, you know. I have to check my finances. I don't have a ride. I can't make the time, right? So I want to make sure that those aren't going to be a problem at the end. Or at least that they already kind of told me that it shouldn't be a problem. So if it is a problem, that they're lying, you know?
So currently at my gym, we went on the process of, we did the old traditional try class and then sign people up, and which can work. And then we went to the model that Mike is talking about. And then we went away to the consult only model. And we're headed back currently to Mike's model, but I'm trying to hybrid it with a little bit more of the question-based selling still in there.
Yeah.
And I can say that one of the hard parts is that this private lesson can do is kind of, I guess a good word for it is the icebreaker phase. That this demo can help with that. Like, you have to do a lot of rapport building on this intro model. Right, the intro only one, that you have to do like a lot of relating and rapport building and like get people out of their shell, right? Because their energy is like they're either too nervous or they're too like one word answery. And before you talk about important stuff with the no intro model, you have to do that a lot. And so do you find you don't really have to, other than the kids with the high five, for adults and or for the parents. You don't really have to deal with any of that with this model.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit more nerve-wracking for people to, well, I guess it's going to be nerve-wracking to get them in no matter what, really, you know, because they know you're going to ask them for money. So they're going to get nervous about that, even if they're not getting nervous about having to train, right? I feel like that it's easier to break the ice with the lesson. And, you know, a lot of times with adults, especially adult jiu-jitsu, if they've trained a little bit at all, you know, letting them jump in the class is fine too. I just, you know, what I do with adult jiu-jitsu, especially if they have some training or they have an idea about jiu-jitsu, what I'll do is I'll have them do a class, and at the end of class, I'll do like a mini version of an intro lesson with them, you know, where, like, you know, if they have some familiarity with jiu-jitsu, I'll just have them start and mount, and I'll let them feel that. I stole this from a little bit from Brandon McCatherine. I'll let them start and mount. What I added to it is I have them try to punch me, you know, because I'm comfortable defending strikes. I'll just start in a position where I know I'm safe. I do this with pro fighters all the time. So if I can stop good pro fighters from hitting me there, I'm confident I could stop, you know, and I feel them out. If they feel like a really good athlete, I might start in the guard, set them out. But I've had to do that before. But I've done this intro for like probably 8 years now. And since my injury healed, I had an injury as a black, like when I first got my black belt, I got injured. But ever since that injury healed about 8 years ago, I've done this intro lesson where I'll have them start and mount and try to punch me, and I get out of mount and take their back and choke them. And I tell them I'm going to do that. I say, all right, I'm going to have you start and mount and try to punch me, you know, like you would in a fight. And I say, we don't have gloves on, so, you know, you don't take me as hard as you can, but see if you can land on me, you know? And if you do hit me too hard, it's not a big deal. I get hit all the time. It's okay. You know, I'm not going to be mad or anything like that. Just if I tap, stop, right? So I kind of give them that pre-frame. And then obviously they feel really nervous, which they realize, wow, I'm going to feel really nervous if I get into a fight. And then they realize, wow, it's really hard to hit somebody when they know how to not get hit. And then I get on top of them and I say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get out, get behind you, and put you in a chokehold. Okay. So I want you to try to stop me at the very least, or, you know, try to hit me a little bit if you can. Just be ready to stop if I tap. And if you feel like you need me to stop, you can tap at any time. Okay. And they say, okay. And so far I've only been hit one time. And I've done this, you know, well over 100 lessons like this, you know, probably hundreds. The one time I got hit was like this it was a little guy. He was like 120 pounds. And I kind of underestimated him. Like he felt like he was, you know, he felt pretty athletic, but he was really small. Then I found out he was like a professional bull rider. He had a really good reaction to when I went to mount escape, and he landed one good shot on me. And he's the only guy that's ever hit me in that intro lesson. But I got out and then I choked him and he signed up. But so I like to do that for people. And then after that, I tell them, hey, that's the power of jiu-jitsu. Would you like to possess this power? I stole that from Brandon McCatherine, and people love that.
Yeah, there's a really, really old, like, I believe that's Horion Gracie used to do that.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from originally, right?
Yeah. Man, Al Bundy, I believe, was the interview that I saw that he was talking about when he started jiu-jitsu, and he got all the way to black belt, and he was like, I don't want to do this. And he got him in like, hey, and like Horion runs that intro, and yeah, I've seen Brandon do it. And that particular intro, I haven't had success with at my gym. I tried it. Maybe I just had bad luck and gave up before it was statistically significant, because we did enroll some people with it, but I had some people with I had one guy in particular that I remember that had former training that he felt like it was condescending. It's like, oh, I don't want somebody like you to be my coach, and I'm the least like that. But it's like, oh, you're first, like I'm trying to prove something. And
understand.
he took it the wrong way, right? And and then we've had other people that were just like blah, and like it just didn't work for. However, I was so that's me, and then I've had some staff member, but mainly me was trying to execute it. Maybe do you think that because I'm not as energetic with the language as you are, do you think that's a super important piece?
Yeah, you know what? With that one, I do, and I think that you made a good point there. It's definitely that one's going to be much more of a feeling out option, and I think like somebody like Brandon McCatherine has the perfect personality to do that kind of intro lesson, right? You know, somebody with a name like Horion Gracie has the perfect name to do that intro lesson. And, you know, when you mention it, like, I honestly, I don't do that with everybody. You know, I do that with the right people, you know, the people that are like, I know it's going to work on. So I do that by feel a lot. That's not like my standard. My standard intro lesson was like the kids. I would just show them a few options and let them feel a little bit of, I'd roll with them a little bit and put them in a choke. And, I'd explain to them like, what I'm doing and how it's working and how that they can learn this too, and that was always how I did it. But the mount escape one, whenever like Brandon told me his version of it, and then, I started doing it, it just worked so good for the right people that to me, it became like my standard, but like not everybody. Right. So somebody with some training could feel offended by that. Right. And I definitely don't do it with everybody. So that's a really good point. I think
I'm
that's
kind of
right.
thinking that how you act, like we said before, the little things are everything. That if how you have the rapport and stuff is not wrong, you could have it the exact opposite, which of what I wanted, which is a very confrontational, how it used to be for when you and I joined jiu-jitsu, probably, which is like go run the gauntlet of death, right? And see how that works out for you. The first
see if you're good enough to join our team.
Right, yeah, the first jiu-jitsu, like it was jiu-jitsu and karate, like it was MMA, right? And so the first thing I ever did when I came into a place was a karate gym. The first thing with a kickboxing MMA program, first thing, well, here's live kickboxing. There was no techniques. Like, here, they're going to try to knock you out. And then just like, oh, and here's chokes and whatever. And like, that's like, okay. So the last thing I wanted to do was that, but I think it could accidentally be that if you're not careful with the linguistics of it. So are most of your adult jiu-jitsu intros, they have a live piece? Is there a way to do it without the live piece?
Yeah. Honestly, I have a fundamentals class, and I literally the way my fundamentals class works right now, I can just throw somebody brand new in there and they're not going to be lost. I have a really good culture in that class. And then they can just be signed up after with a regular closing system. I just have, my fundamentals instructor say, hey, good job today. Did you have fun? Is this something you want to keep doing? And then they go and sign up. So I'll have adults do the fundamentals class without even doing a private intro sometimes.
No private. If you're going to do a private, though, you always do the live training piece, or is there?
I almost not always. I make it optional because I don't want to scare somebody off, but I will always try to encourage it, because I know I want them to like feel what they can learn how to do. And I want them not to like feel how good I am. I want them to know that they can do this too. They can learn how to do this one day if they get, like, I like to give that feeling, does that make sense? Cause that's what sold me, and sometimes we get a little bit biased because, I remember what I was looking for and how I was and what sold me on it. But that's not necessarily what's going to get most people, so it's something I have to remind myself of sometimes. But in the intro lesson, if I'm going to do a private intro lesson, I try to encourage the live training portion, but I'll never force it. Some people are just uncomfortable when I say, well, is this something you want to keep doing? And as long as they say yes, then I don't push it. If they're like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm going to check out a couple of, well, then I say, all right, well, let's do a little bit of rolling first and, see how you feel. I want to make sure that if they're not sold, if they don't think that they want to do it, then I want to use that because I know that can push people over the edge and really change their mindset. Because the other thing is sometimes people, like, you show them some things and they think they know better, well, I did, Aikido for 20 years and, that would never work on me. That's what they're thinking in their head the whole time, even though they're not saying it. So if I get that feeling, so when I ask them at the end, is this something you want to keep doing? All right. Do you feel like this is going to help get you to your goals? If they give me like, oh, I'm not so sure, I might check out another place, or, they're not like sold on it, they're not ready to go, then I'm going to roll with them. I'm going to kind of push it, because I know they're not going to sign up anyway. So I might as well, that's going to be my best chance to get them to enroll.
Do you have a lot of people that say, I'm not so sure, and then you roll, and then they do enroll, or?
Yeah, actually. No, I don't have a lot of people that say they're not so sure. Most of the time, like if they didn't really want to do live training, it's because they're very nervous about the live training, but they want to learn. So they usually do enroll, and that does happen a lot. Most people are cool with it. Most people are like, yeah, all right, let's try it. And then they're like, oh my God, it was great. And then it's the ones that don't, most of the ones that don't want to learn, they're just nervous. Right. But they want to learn. So they do join. And then out of the ones that don't, some of them do think they know better, and if you can get them to get on the mats, you can kind of like open their eyes a little bit, it can be eye-opening, if you never, And the other thing too is like a lot of them have trained with like a jiu-jitsu guy, and it was like a blue belt, and they don't know the difference between a blue belt and a black belt. Everyone's no gi anyway. If they've never like trained with anybody that was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, they can be thinking that they know more than they do, and once they feel that you have a lot to offer them, it can really shift their mindset. I know that's what sold me. I was kind of like that. I thought that I knew more than I did when I first started in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because I did traditional martial arts and we did some grappling. So I thought that I knew a lot more than I did. And it was a purple belt beating me up in slow motion. That's what really sold me, because they had me go with the white belt. I guess they were trying to show me they had a good athletic white belt, and I ended up tapping the white belt out. They had me go with, and then they had me go with the blue belt, and I did good with the blue belt. But then whenever I rolled that purple belt, he just destroyed me in slow motion. I'm like, oh my God, this is different than what I've been doing. I need to learn this.
So for Muay Thai, do you have a separate intro for that? Is that?
Yeah, I do the same as the kickboxing one. I don't make them do live. And if they have training and they've done live before, again, I'll put them in the class. Like for the guys that have trained before, I don't think the intro lesson is the best if they have like significant experience. I think significant experience, they need to experience the class, Yeah. The one I always try to do it with kids. All right. Kids, I pretty much always do an intro lesson for, because kids usually don't have a significant experience. But if you have like an orange belt move into town, I'll put them in the class too,
So for the weird case where somebody has a significant amount of experience, say they're a blue belt, or maybe they're not a blue belt, but they did like a year or so, and at least they're saying they're giving you a large training times, but there's been a gap, right? I got my blue belt in 2015. I got my and I stopped training because of blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't with you. Even if it is with you, that's a different conversation. But like, so you don't know them. Though I found those people, if we throw them in like live training, they'll try to push themselves harder than a normal person because they're trying to catch up to this standard they used to be at, and that they're questioning whether they want to train at the end of the class, and we lose them. Is there a special process for that, or?
I would say just I would say have them do your normal class, and if they're struggling with it, give them some encouragement. Be like, hey, why don't you sit this round out? Or hey, why don't you go with this guy this round and work on this? Like just give them some, like, show them your ability to coach and help them, and give them what they need, but not more than they can handle, right? Because that's probably what they want. They probably want a coach that sees them and is willing to, it wants to help them, but isn't going to give them more than they can handle, right? So, and if in that case, like if they're struggling and you see them kind of question themselves, I would give them a round off. I would encourage them to take a round off. And if they say, no, I'm going to push myself, I'd put them with somebody that's going to work with them a little bit, or put them with a round that's not going to, push them over the edge. Right. Probably not give them the gym killer in the next round. But I would have them experience like a normal class and show them what they're going to be able to get out of my classes, more than anything. Instead of just showing how tough we are. I think that's like kind of like an easy thing to fall into. It's like, all right, this guy came from another gym. We want to show him how good we are. So we're going to give him all of our toughest rounds back to back. I think that's kind of an easy route to fall into, but it's not necessarily always the best way to do it.
Right. Yeah. I can tell you that, we have no issue. We have very close to 100% sign rate. If like somebody experienced comes in, we just throw them in the class that are actively training, right? You moved to this area, you tried a class, we're almost 100%. But if you had a gap, we do really not good. By really not good, we probably still sign it over easily over 50%. But like, I'm just shocked every time we lose anyone right there, because it's like, man, you were, and I just felt like that's a mistake on our part. I lost a 4-stripe blue belt that was from your gym. He actually signed up, but then he contacted me to cancel right after because he was too beat up the next day. And I was like, man, I wanted, like, deep in my soul, I wanted to tell this guy that he couldn't roll the first, like, or roll after that. I was like, hey, take it easy. He's like, no, I want to push and whatever. I'm like, and I did coach him. And I was like, hey, pacing is an important skill. And like, he was a former wrestler and whatever, and he was actually good. Yeah. But and he had fun and signed up, but I knew he was going to be sore tomorrow. I knew it was going to be devastating tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he should have known. He had a lot of jiu-jitsu, and but like people forget. I remember when even I had knee surgery, I had all sorts of stuff, but I came right back on the mats. COVID was the only time I had significant time off the mats. When I had 2 months or whatever off from COVID, my first time back, I was like, wow. I could feel it tremendously. And just imagine 2 years off or whatever. And I was like, I would do stuff. And so I get it that it's like and I was back in like 3-4 days. But I would shoot a triangle and like it would be all crummy. Like I'm missing, the angles aren't there. And I'm like, what has happened to me in 2 months? I've lost it. Like I'm no longer a black belt. I'm down to blue. So
well, I mean, even in that case, it sounds like you signed him up. I mean, so look, here's the thing, you signed him up. So it wasn't necessarily that you made the wrong choice. Really that just became a retention issue more than anything. I mean, he canceled like right after, or like a week after, or 2 weeks, or a month, or a day.
He never did another class.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. Man. It's a tough call. But like, the thing is, like, people that like came back and, go back and forth a lot. I mean, it's hard to get out of that habit. If you're so used to being out, it's hard to get back in sometimes. Right. So it's, I think even getting him to sign the paper was
I was excited that day, but I do feel like if I would have done things differently, he wouldn't have been as sore. We could have kept him, because to me, that's part of the sign up. It's like you sign him, whatever, and then they want out, and like, even if it's not until 2 weeks or whatever, but they didn't come another class, like you barely really signed them, right? You got the paperwork signed, but you didn't lose them at a following class. You lost them before then. So
it sounds like you learned from it. I would have, if you felt like he was doing a little bit too much, it probably would have been best not to like suggest, but maybe step in and be like, hey, so a good example, like, nobody wants to look like a bitch. That's especially when you go into a new gym, you don't want to look like you're quitting. All right. Nobody wants to be a quitter. So if it looks like, if everyone's going hard and they're doing rounds, you're like, all right, man, I'm exhausted. I'm going to do this next round. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to sit out. I'm not going to be the one that has to sit out. Right. And you get into that mindset, like, I'm going to roll with everybody here. Even if I get my butt whooped, whatever, I'm going to be sore tomorrow. I'm going to get through this, So when you have that mindset, that can be a good thing. Right. But at the same time, you might not be ready to do that yet. Last week I was up training with a really good jiu-jitsu coach, and one of the guys in the training room, this is a world-class training room. One of the guys in the training room is getting ready for a big fight. And he was a little run down. All right. He'd been training really hard. And there's a lot of young, big, strong, athletic, really tough guys in that room. And, this coach, he's like, hey, I see you. Why don't you do this round? You're going to go with this guy this round. Okay. And he had this, this big heavyweight that's getting ready for a fight, go with the lighter guys, because he saw how worn down he was. And he knows that if he goes with these other big young dudes that are getting, not as worn down, there's a high likelihood that he's going to get possibly tweaked, a little bit of an injury, or overworked, and then not be able to perform as well in 2 weeks, whatever it is for the fight. So, I mean, sometimes stepping in and making that decision and not suggesting can go a long way, with coaching in general, but especially with an intro lesson, because not everyone knows what's best for them. People think they know what's best for them, but sometimes they need to be told otherwise. Now, on the same side of that coin, you can do that and piss the guy off, and then he doesn't sign up.
Right.
So it's tough.
That's what myself and my coaches are always worried about, like with these people with training.
Yeah.
Like, that it's because there's just such a separation, I find, in between what they think and what they want, and like what they really need.
Yeah. And
that they're not really seeing us as a coach yet, right? Because their coach is this other guy, and of course they're able to do this and this, but and in very few cases do they need to be doing that. Is what you're talking about is the exact same reason people want to push or whatever. That's the exact same reason that like we used to. I didn't force anybody, right? But everybody almost said yes. It's like, hey, do you want to do some live training? Like at their first class, we no longer have beginners like that. You're not allowed. I fixed the problem by you're not allowed. And I'm super sold on an unexperienced person not being allowed to go into regular rolling on the first day. because people will say yes when their mind is screaming no, right? Because they feel that way, right? So I'm super sold on that.
Yeah.
Um,
I like to do it myself with them.
yeah, well, so that if the coach is working with them, it's a different conversation, I do think, but it's very, very skill oriented. You have to be careful with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And how long you usually do that?
How long around?
No, not do you do a full round with these people, or
Oh no, I
by
usually
ear?
just, yeah, I usually just put them on a submission or something like that, but it's
So you're doing like 30 seconds with
yeah,
these.
yeah, not very long, but I'll do it slow and methodical and technical, and I try not to use too much energy, and if they're squeezing, I'll let them squeeze, and then when they burn out, I just move my head, like I try to show them like the beauty of jiu-jitsu in a way, right? The gentle art, right? Where I can be gentle and still kill you if I want, right? So there's not many martial arts that allow that. So I try to like portray that a little bit. So, but as far as like you talk about, like as far as like classes go, when I encourage rolling pretty early, and I do a lot of live training even when they're not rolling. I do. I just and I've gone back and forth on it. I've tried it both ways over the years, but just for development, I try to I make it safe, but I encourage live training a lot early. Most of my training is live training.
Yeah. So we talked about that in the last podcast, right? Maybe that
Right.
piece will reemerge. But you talked about like even for very young kids, or even the people in the class with they're like 2-year-olds with their mom or dad. You do mainly live training in there.
Well, I mean, have you ever tried to teach a 2-year-old anything? Have you ever like tried to teach a kid how to walk? Like, I mean, dude, you can't like tell them how to do it. You have to have them do it, right? So I mean, it's when you're teaching a kid how to walk, you don't say, all right, little Johnny, we're gonna I need you to pick your left knee up and then tilt forward and put your left foot on the ground really quick, and then switch and bring your right knee up and tilt forward and put your right knee up. We're gonna practice that 20 times. Okay, you ready? Go. No, it'll never, no way, never gonna happen, right? You have them lean up on a wall and you say, all right, come to me, come on, go. And then they go, and then you catch them, right? And then they start going further and further away. And then all of a sudden they're running around the room. And I think that's the easiest way to teach that age group is I say, all right, we're going to grab mom's leg and pick it up really high. And then we're going to spin her in a circle and trip the other leg. You ready? Go. When you teach them like that, they can do it,
And you have the mom fall right there. So you're not worried
Yeah.
about them falling on her or on them or anything.
Yeah. And if the mom can't do it physically, I have assistants that can help and jump in and whatever else. But they're giving resistance. Like they're not just flopping over, they're balancing. They're not going to fall over until they get tripped. Right. I'm having the kid then immediately try to hold them down because they're going to try to get back up. So they get used to like tripping and then going right into a top position, like a cross body position or a mount position. And, it's great. Like, I mean, these kids learn how to move good early. Like, I think wrestling is the earlier you teach it, the easier it is to learn. Cause like, I mean, these little kids, they can't like bend over because their heads are too heavy. They'll fall. They have to like squat properly or else they fall. So like all the wrestling positions that they have to do, they're going to naturally do them correct when they're really young. Because if they don't do them correct, they lose their balance and they can't even move, So it's funny how much easier it is to teach like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old how to do a double leg takedown than it is how to teach like an adult that if they've never trained before.
So one thing one of my coaches that also does sales for me was I had him watch your last podcast, and the one that is not yet published and maybe will be part of this one. And he asked, well, what about with multiple kids, right? So if how does that work?
Yeah, it can be tough if they're different age groups. So what I'll do is I'll try to do them all to the sometimes you'll have to do them separate, right? I try to do them all at the same time. But if one of them is just too young and they're disrupting, I say, all right, we're gonna have you sit on the side with mom and watch for a minute, okay? And then I'll do the other kids, right? Are you talking about like siblings, right?
Yeah.
Like
well, regardless, one person that's going to be paying for 2 kids is bringing
right,
2 kids in.
Yeah, no, it's easy. You do the same intro lesson for both of them. I do that all the time. In fact, sometimes it makes it easier because like you'll notice that a lot of times like the younger kids do better with an older sibling, they're not as nervous. You know, they kind of get courage from being with their big sibling, even if they don't get along well. You know, they get along well in the class. That's what mom needs to see, right? So I found that makes it, you know, easier to get the younger kids out. But I'll try to do the same lesson with all of them. And if there's something that like one of the kids, or if one kid's just bouncing off the walls and disrupting it, I'll have them go on the side. All right, I'll be like, hey, we're going to try him in the little ninjas class next week, but let's get these guys started now. And we can always add him on. We're going to have him do a free ninja class next week. And then if he likes it, we can add him on later, you know, but these guys are ready to go. They're going to earn their white belts tonight. You know, they're doing awesome. So
you'll do that mid demo. So you have them both, and one's bouncing off, and you'll have one sit down. Yeah.
Yep. That's all right. You're going to sit next to mom while I do the lesson. I want you to watch what they're doing today, because next week in class, you're going to learn some of this stuff. Right. And then, okay. And then they sit next to mom and they disrupt and whatever. Sometimes mom doesn't get to see everything, but at the end, I have those kids super excited. They do the homework clothes and whatever else. Then I get the other kid excited about doing the ninja class with kids his age, you know.
How do you do that? Like when he doesn't get the belt, he didn't get to break the board.
Exactly. He didn't get to break the board. He didn't get the belt, but we'll do it next time if you're good at home and you clean your room, you know, and then sure enough, they do it.
So how do you, so that's what you say to them, like, hey, next time you're going to get to do this if, so.
Yeah. So I'm still going to let you earn your white belt. You got to make that room A+ clean. And then next time you come here, if that room's A+ clean, you got your white belt, I'm going to let you break a board. How's that sound? Oh yeah. Then they want to do it because now they got something to look forward to, but they're usually, you know, sometimes they get upset because they didn't get to break the board. I'll let them break it. You know, I don't want to let a kid leave crying. So if they are crying about it, I'll say, all right, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to give this one more shot. I need you to practice your front kick. I need you to be serious. And then we're going to break this board. Does that sound good to you? And I say, all right, then we'll let them do it. And I'll say, all right, great. You still got to clean your room during that white belt. And then I'm going to have you do little ninjas class on Monday at 5:00. Okay. And that's when you can earn your first stripe. I give little ninja stripes every class. I do a little bit of a different belt system with them. But I'm not going to try to do an intro lesson with a kid that's bouncing off the walls. I'm going to focus on the ones that are ready to learn it and ready for that intro lesson. And I'm going to remove the one that's disrupting it. Because if you try to do it with all three and you're trying to like grab one kid while the other two older kids are doing the right thing, they're going to start losing focus.
But if you had that disrupting one, what would you do? Go back for the intro, or you would keep, if you just had one right there and they were disrupting one, you would try to push through, or you would?
It depends. Yeah, great question. It does depend. I would try to push through because I'm there anyway, right? But if I have difficulty getting this kid's focus, I am not going to look like I don't know what I'm doing in front of this parent. I'm going to get them in for the class. I'm going to say, hey, look, all right, so how old is John right now? All right, he's 4.5. Great. And, you know, at this age, sometimes they're ready for classes and sometimes we need a little bit more time. Every month counts at this age. But let's do this. A lot of times, kids at this age group do better in the group class. When they get to see the class, they get to play the games, they're going to do a lot better. So let's try bringing him in for the class, have him jump in, and then see how he does with that. Okay. And I'll try to do the homework close. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then once they come in for the class, if they participate, because if you cannot get a kid to participate, and there's sometimes where you won't, especially when they're really young, you can't sign them up. I mean, it's not realistic. So you have to be able to get them to participate. And, you know, almost always you can. But there are definitely exceptions to that rule. There's some kids that are just off the wall. You know.
So if you bailed on your intro, basically, you would still do
I would still get them
the board break and homework close.
I would try to, but like I would do it the next class. You know, I want to do the board break right before I try to sign them up, and I'm not going to try to sign them up if I couldn't get them to do the class. You know, or if I couldn't get them to learn anything. Now I had this happen actually last week. I had a kid that was super shy, and I was doing an intro lesson with him, and I was having he liked the grappling, but he didn't want to do any kicks, and he got super nervous about doing the kicks. But then his brother was there too. And I did an intro lesson with his brother. His brother broke the board. And as soon as his brother broke the board, now he wanted to learn kicks. You know, so that kind of was like an eye opener for me. Because the mom brought the brother in later because they were different age groups. And then after that, the kid wanted to do them. So I had him do the kick and break the board. So sometimes I'll bring out that board and like motivate them to learn, you know, and that like when I say, hey, look, if you listen, you'll get to break this board today. If you don't, it's too dangerous. I can't let you try. Then sometimes that can grab their focus. And that's kind of like a new trick that I've added. Because I used to hide that as a secret, like a surprise at the end. But what I realized is that sometimes that can be a motivating factor for the little kid to focus. So I now utilize that.
So as a standard, though, whether they're different, same age, different ages, would be in a different class, same class. You can do this on the side of a mat. You would do it as a default, you would bring, if there was 2 kids or 3 kids, you would line them all up together and give instructions, and they were all, and you would kind of alternate in between each, working with each of the 3, if it was 3. So you showed last time, like the with the hands up, and like kind of swatting them if they don't keep their hands up, stuff like that. You would do that. You would just like go back and forth with all
Absolutely.
of them.
Yeah, I do that with my class, so it would just be like a class. I've had like 7 siblings in one intro lesson before, and actually those kids were phenomenal. Like this mom did such a good job, but those kids were so disciplined. It was like I didn't have to do anything, you know. It was like that was the easiest intro lesson ever. You know, this mom had like literally, I think it was 7 kids, and they were just all like from 3 to teenager. They were just all super well behaved, super respectful, and they all signed up.
And so, yeah, so you've signed up some families, and I know we've talked in the past about prices and different things like that. But no matter what, if you have a group of 7, like it's probably not going to be super cheap for them to sign up. However you package.
And I have like super cheap add-ons after the 4th family member. You know, I make it like super cheap if they're like a real nuclear family. You know, because I want the families there. I have the space, so I make it cheap to add on family members, you know, because I want, this is me personally. I want families in my gym. I want the whole family to train. I don't want to make it unaffordable, like where they could have to pick like 2 people, you know? And I have the mat space to accommodate it. So it's easy for me. I know not everyone wants that. Not everyone can do that, but like, that's my business model. My thing, like my focus, I want to train world-class fighters. I want to teach people how to fight, and I want families to train with me. You know, those are the 2 things that I want personally. And since it's my place, it's what I focus on.
Right. So as far as super cheap, or you're talking about like, is like 80 a month super cheap, or you're going under than that after?
You're talking about like for add-on people? Yeah.
Like after when we're talking about person 4, person 5, person 6.
I don't charge, like my highest price is like for a family, I keep it well under 400 a month. I don't let people go over that, you know? So like I'll make it free, you know, like when they start adding people on after a certain number, I just make it, I don't charge them anymore. You know, I just have them come to class. And I know that's not like probably the most business savvy decision, you know, you can make, but it's just how I do it.
Yeah, well, depending, my concern, like, so I used to do an unlimited training plan. I don't have a pure unlimited right now anyway. I got that from you, and I think you had told me, maybe you brought it back, that you were like, you had a family of like a 12 and some different things sign up, and you were like kind of regretting it yourself. But my thing is,
well, the problems come in when
some
you're
of
like
the time
your cousins on it and shit, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, some of the time we can, but like, man, some of these smaller classes, it's like, man, if you enroll 12 people I got to have another instructor, and I like now I can no longer enroll anybody in this class, and it's like, it's not really worth. Now, if it was a distribution of ages, it wouldn't be so bad. But if you like filled the class yourself, and now it's like, hey, well, I really can't give you a super cheap, affordable for a dozen people plan, because I've got to service these people.
Yeah, no, yeah. And well, the problems that I've run into in the past is like people try to take advantage of it, you know, so they'll be like, oh, well, and what you run into a lot is like, there's a divorce, and then there's a step, and then, you know, and then they try to split. Anytime they start talking about having somebody pay them and split it up, no, we don't do that. It's got to be one person paying for it, and it's all people living in the same household. If you aren't living in the same household, you can't get this discount, you know? And that's kind of where I cut it. Cause then, you know, you have like old parents, like 50-year-old parents having their 30-year-old kids and their grandkids, you know, so, and people will try to take advantage of it because it is significantly cheaper. So I don't always advertise it, but like if I have a mom that has 7 kids, I'm going to do it for them, you know, like I'm not charging them over a certain amount, you know? But yeah, you definitely have to be careful how you advertise that, because I've had tons of problems with like the step kids and the ex-wife, and then the brother, and then the grandma, and you know, everybody trying to get in on it, and then all of a sudden you have 3 families training for the price of 1, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like that's not, it makes it weird in the numbers. It makes it weird with quality of service and retention, because it's like you have, oh, it's unlimited, whatever, but like really only 2 people care. And then we have people with memberships that there's no showing, and I'm bothering them with MIA calls and whatever, but like they didn't even want to sign up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They didn't really want to sign up. They signed up, quote unquote, because it's free to add another person. So why not put everybody on, even though they're never going to go do the class?
And I think that's kind of why, like, I don't really advertise it as free, but that's what I do, So I think I have like an add-on price. But it's, I don't charge people more than a certain amount if it's like legit, I want the families to train there, but I definitely ran into some issues, when I was advertising that, because people do try to take advantage of it. And then the other thing you run into is not only are they trying to take advantage of it, but then like 2 of them will quit and they want to pay half the price. It's like, dude, they're not even paying for those people, Like, they want to take money off after like 2 of them quit that they weren't paying for anyway, So and then you run into some real issues, It's like, all right, well, they're moving, so we can pay less now, right? It's like, dude, you have 12 people paying, and you're paying for the price of like 2 people.
Right. Yeah. Can you pay me to train there if a couple of people move?
Yeah, pretty much, right? So you're gonna start paying me to come now, right? Yeah. And like some people are shameless with that, I've definitely run into that in the past.
All right. So I kind of forgot where we left the end of the other podcast. I think we were in the middle of a question of something, but I think we were talking a lot about we talked about the kids curriculum and the live training. You basically went to live training on all the classes but you said you did for kids, you would separate classes. So you would have like a Muay Thai, you would have like a striking only class for kids.
I do. I'm still working on my schedule a little bit. I like to make adjustments every quarter, I'm thinking about making some big ones leading into the end of the year here. But I do have a striking only class and a grappling only class for kids. I always like teaching. I'm a mixed martial artist. That's my favorite thing. That's what I want to teach. I want to, teach all martial arts. That's important to me. But it's definitely, the jiu-jitsu is jiu-jitsu is really hot right now. Jiu-jitsu is popular, but boxing is hot too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's, you got to give people what they want. So I have jiu-jitsu classes and I have striking classes. Even though if I had it my way, if I could, I would do all MMA classes all the time. And, sometimes we grapple, sometimes we strike, but like it's MMA across the board. That'd make my life easier. Well, this is not what people really want. People want jiu-jitsu and they want it separate. They want to have their peas over here and their steak over here. They don't like the peas and the mashed potatoes mixed up, right?
So obviously, especially at a certain level, the stuff in transition is an advantage for MMA, because there are things about MMA that are in none of the other arts, right? The in-between, and then the wall work, and then stuff like that. Yeah. But other than that, is there any disadvantage of separating like that? I can't teach you a cross and the mount at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty, that's a significant, I think people underestimate the disadvantage that can put you at though, whenever you do want to transition into MMA, it can be a pretty, well, we see it all the time, the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world have a lot of difficulty when they transition from like IBJJF jiu-jitsu into mixed martial arts, right? Even with years of MMA training, they have trouble on the ground sometimes, there's a lot of reasons for that. We don't, folk style wrestling, we don't really see those same issues. And if you look at the rules, you can kind of see why, right? In folk style wrestling, like there's a lot of rules against grabbing your hands together and holding on. They have to like get used to like one-handed grips, which makes it a lot easier to learn how to use your body weight and throw punches. In jiu-jitsu, we end up like, and you see this in freestyle and Greco wrestling a lot too, where they don't have those rules. They're allowed to just hold on. They have difficulty on the ground in MMA. And I think that's a factor. People like underestimate how big that is when you transition. Learning how to hold people down while you're hitting them, can be a big factor. And then, adding in the person on bottom just trying to get up, like, I do that a lot in my jiu-jitsu now. So what I realized, a lot of this stuff, even though it doesn't score points in jiu-jitsu, it's not against the rules in jiu-jitsu either. So I just teach it as jiu-jitsu. So most of my escapes now aren't so much like, I teach guard recovery, of course, and guard passing. but I focus more on wrestling up and getting up, you know, instead of just getting the guard back. And I think that's a huge factor. Like, because when you're in a jiu-jitsu match, most of the time you're trying to pass the guard and stop the guy from getting their guard back. Not a whole lot of people in jiu-jitsu really just try to get up. Like, it just doesn't happen that often because there's not that much benefit to it. What if you get up, then the guy pulls guard on you, you don't get any points anyway, right? So they just pass your guard. They got on top of you somehow, so they're probably up, you know, at least 2 to 5 points. And now you stood up and they pulled guard, you're still down 5 points. You know, it doesn't really help you that much, right? So I think that there's no benefit to being able to get up in jiu-jitsu. But in MMA, that's all anyone tries to do. Nobody tries to put their guard back. You pass somebody's guard in MMA, they just try to grab your leg and get up. You know, that's it. And when you're not used to holding somebody down, it feels totally different, you know? And that threw me off. I remember when I was a brown belt, I had an amateur fight, and it was against like a white belt, and I was just like ready to kill this guy. And I took him down, I passed his guard, and I just remember he got up. And I'm like, how the hell did this just happen? You know, like I was expecting him. I went to like stop his guard recovery. He just stood up and got out. And I was like, what the hell just happened? You know, I ended up submitting the guy like right after that, but it was such an eye opener for me. Like this didn't feel like a jiu-jitsu match at all, you know? And that was like my 3rd fight or 4th fight. Might have been my 5th fight. I don't remember.
I emphasize that a bunch, and I argue it has a place. You don't see it a bunch, but it has a place in jiu-jitsu too, because I've seen a lot of my guys that they're basically jiu-jitsu guy against tough wrestler guy, or right, and that finally you're getting crushed, and finally you get on top of this guy, especially at the heavyweight. Some of them are all of a sudden they're very weak on bottom.
Yeah,
and then you back off because it's like guard passing in class, right? So like, okay, I don't want to get sucked into an armbar, which he was never going to armbar you. And so you make space and he pops back up and you can't take him down. Like, you've lost the match now. So I'm very much for jiu-jitsu, MMA, self-defense. Like, unless you're making a conscious decision, stay pressured in, like be preventing the stand-up at all times. Like, if you have a top position, you shouldn't be allowing stand-ups for free. They should have to earn it. So I emphasize that a bunch. So I get that.
And I think that's just you know, and it's one of those things you can teach that in jiu-jitsu. So that's what I do. I teach like that, you know. So most of my side control escapes these days are, you know, more the MMA style side control escapes as opposed to like just recovering guard. But the thing is, you can start with you can start by like wrestling up and then pull guard off of that, you know. So I teach that a lot too. So, I mean, I still like to teach jiu-jitsu. A lot of people love jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu is very popular, and it's, you know, it's a great skill set, and it's fun. And there's money starting to come in jiu-jitsu competition also. And that's what people want, you know, and I love jiu-jitsu. So, and I love the guard, you know, I was a guard player, you know, all my jiu-jitsu competitions, I would just jump triangles all the time. You know, that was my thing. I was a guard player. So I love the guard. And I use the guard a lot in MMA. But I think that being on bottom MMA just loses you decisions, you know, so you got to be careful about that. And I think that getting that feel, being used to holding people down, makes it easier to transition your jiu-jitsu into MMA. So that's why I focus on that. Because now if my students want to focus on jiu-jitsu, they can, you know, they can definitely like use all this stuff in a jiu-jitsu match, and it's not going to hurt their score. You know, if they understand that you have to use the guard to sweep, you know, put them in the half guard before you knock them over, and don't just grab their leg and get on top. And then they also, when they go into MMA, they're in good position to be able to get out from the bottom and not just end up recovering guard, not getting a submission, and losing a round, you know, which is a big factor, you know, when you transition from jiu-jitsu to MMA. Because it's like, I mean, you know this as well as anybody. If you have punching allowed and you have sweat and Vaseline and you have, you know, a good athlete, you can teach him how to shut the guard down and not get submitted for whatever 3 minutes on the ground a lot easier than you can show somebody how to get a submission from their back, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it becomes so much harder to get a submission off your back when somebody's allowed to just, you know, stop you. Just keep their head in the right spot, put their hips in the right spot, put your hips in between their knees, and throw punches whenever you move, and, you know, just try to stay safe.
Especially with the stand-up rules that, I mean, in jiu-jitsu competition, top guy is stalling. in MMA, top guy is going to get, if he just wants to get his points and do what little damage he did and get stood back up, he's going to be able to get that with no punishment basically every time, unless you're just so much better than him. You can hit angles and what, but that's very hard to do. Yeah.
Well, no, but even then, like, and this is something like I had to learn the hard way, especially, Jason Knight, one of my guys. He's a really good guard player. And he would, like, I remember his fight with Amir Khani. He fought Makwan Amir Khani in Liverpool. And first of all, he should have got a 10-8 in the first round. He knocked him down twice, but he ended up on his back a lot in that fight. He jumped for a rear triangle, ended up on bottom. He got taken down a couple of times, but he was just attacking nonstop, elbows, punches, hammer fists, submission attempts. And all Amir Khani did was defend and escape submissions. And all he did was stay on top. He didn't do any damage, not nearly as much damage as Jason did. And Jason still lost a decision in that fight. It was a split decision, but he was dominant from the bottom. Like, if anyone that knows
all the time. Recently happened to one of my guys too, that like knocked the guy down, did damage, but like was taken down and was on bottom in the fight. And plus the 10 must system, with the combination of how judges see it, you run the risk of losing these decisions in MMA. So yes, MMA is not set up for this type of to reward this type of play. It rewards strikers with the stand-ups and the rounds. It rewards the wrestlers with the top position and such. And those are strong styles anyway, right? Jiu-jitsu, it doesn't really reward, period. Maybe the submission of the night bonus if you're really lucky, but there's nothing else in there for you.
That's about it. Just like there's times where people dominate from the bottom and lose a decision, and it's terrible, but that's the reality of that sport, so you got to, if you have people that want to transition into that, they have to be prepared for that, unfortunately. Hopefully, down the road we'll get better judging, but right now it is what it is.
Yeah, well, you and I talked about hopefully down the road we would get better judging, and that was like 8 or 9 years ago we talked about
it. Has gotten better. It just hasn't gotten better.
It hasn't
gotten better enough.
That's just like, hey, how's your knee? Oh, it's better. Yeah. Like better, you mean it's like improved, on it. Not like it's not well.
Yeah, I can stand on it now. That's about it.
Yeah,
but like at least there's rules now. So now now it's like, all right, I know that what you're kind of trying to do, so I have an idea of how to get my guy ready. Like before it was like the Wild West. You have no idea how they're going to score a fight.
Right.
Now we have at least an idea, so it's a little bit better.
A little bit more stable. At the lower levels, it almost isn't. Maybe a little bit improved, but at the mid or higher levels, it's a little bit more stable for sure. But yeah, so that's, do we have any more business oriented comments? This ended up being a very different podcast than last one. I'll probably paste most, if not all, of the other podcasts in there, just because we talked about different things. I could probably continue having the Mike and Brian podcast and try to talk about the same thing every week with Mike, and it would be different every time if we did that.
Yeah.
So there's just so much that that Mike's super good at. Really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any other closing comments, things?
No, man, I get a little bit all over the place because I'm always trying, like you, I'm always trying to learn and do new things. I am very like, it's funny because there's so many people in the martial arts industry that I meet, and they've been doing the same thing with success for like 50 years, and they just keep doing it. And I'm like, I could never, I'm always looking for like a new way to do something, a new angle. I found a lot of great ones over the years. Sometimes you run into dead ends, but I'm always looking for that next new thing also that's going to help take my gym to the next level, take my team to the next level, and now I'm fighting again. So, I got that too. I got to balance that in there. This year I took 2 fights. I got another one coming up, and it's definitely getting back into competition has been a big change for me that I have to adjust to. I have to adjust my schedule and adjust the way I run my gym. But it's, I guess it's what I needed this year. So I'm feeling like my old self again. I kind of feel, I guess I need to shake things up once in a while. I started to feel a little bit more motivated than I did in the past few years, getting back out there. And now I'm ready to like step up a lot of my business practices too. So, I've been getting back on the wagon, tightening up the ship here.
Yeah, I know some of the same type of people that you're talking about, these guys that they run this that works, and like, but in my experience, not just in this business, but most of them, the most successful business people are constantly split testing, trying, keeping up. If not, like, man, if you've been, so how long are we talking about? If you're talking about 25 years, if you're talking about a long time with no changes, that means you're still in the yellow pages, right? And
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook, like eventually, right? So you've got a file cabinet and your cards, and I've got a CRM and automation and whatever. Like, so at some point you almost have to change.
Well, I think a part of that too is like, they they're business coaches, so they sell this method and they portray this method. So they probably are changing and they're just not showing it.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to build my software red belt like this, I don't know, like, the last time we talked about it, it was probably like a skeleton, but it was most of these other guys, they have, oh yeah, the best time to retry billing is after 3 days or whatever. And it's just, now it's too much trouble to rebuild your software. My whole thing was to build it like super flexible where you can dynamically test and change all that how you want to, because I can give you my systems, but even my system is a system of test and changing, right? And so that's what the very, very highest level guys are. And if you're low level, I recommend you start by copying a higher level person, right? But then you can tweak and test. And so yeah, I've got that's why I really spent tons of extra money for that versatility. For those of you guys that don't know about software, adding flexibility to a feature makes vastly more time and money to build it, right? So something set, hey, every time this retries after 5 days and it retries a max of 10 times, it's way easier to build than one more screen where, hey, put your number here or here on the number of retries you want and the number of time in between. And like same thing, like, hey, drag and drop the automations here versus, oh, here's the follow-up flows. So it was a lot more time. But yeah, I'm a huge believer in that the only way forward is to keep testing and retrying, because that's otherwise, if you look, the easy way to see it is look further back. If you say, oh, well, there's some people, well, look further back, because the big corporations, all of them have websites now. All of them have, like, so if you look further back, you have to change eventually. It's just how fast.
Yeah. Well, shoot, you look back far enough, even in martial arts, and you got, Hoist Gracie armbar, and guys don't know how to, never seen an armbar before.
In everything. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, hey, well, if you, Babe Ruth, baseball legend, probably couldn't even make the major leagues right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's a quote unquote simpler sport, but like, he used to point in the stands where he wanted the ball to go, and he would usually hit it there, and then like he wouldn't even be competitive at the major leagues now. And so things change, and the next generation is usually stronger. When people ask me who I think the greatest whoever jiu-jitsu MMA fighter of all time, I'm like, well, I don't think they've been born yet. Now, if you're talking about an obsolete thing, like the greatest wartime sword fighter might be Masashi or somebody in the past. Now, he probably couldn't win in the modern fencing Olympics because that probably got better. But in terms of like that, like, okay, but if it's something people still do, that person isn't born yet. The greatest isn't born yet, because every generation is getting stronger. The old Eddie Bravo quote, I guess he didn't make that up, but the whole evolve or die, he pushes it for jiu-jitsu real hard. Super big fan of that for business, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important everywhere.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. Mike basically did 2 podcasts for us. We'll see if it doesn't look great. That's my fault in the editing, not his, because he did 2 great podcasts. And I'm going to do something great for you guys with them. Thanks so much, Mike.
Hey, it's great being here, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime.